Hi. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Normal America Show. Colin Show. Day shift crowd. That's right. We're back in full swing. Day shift crowd. Let's be honest. If you're here, let me tell you something about night shift crowd. They suck. Night shift Rob sucks. Night shift crowd sucks. They're garbage. This is where it's at. Day shift. Happy to be here. Another Colin Show. Links pinned at the top. We can talk about whatever you want within reason. Like, if you had to go to the doctor for some rash, probably keep that to yourself. Though I don't know. Given the show last night, people seem to be divulging a lot of personal information in ways that I think are quite crazy, in my opinion. We have a lot to talk about today. Yeah, the night shift out. I don't know what they're. Happy Memorial Day, first off, and God bless all those heroes that fell so that we could do silly stuff like this. Really is important. We're going to talk more about Memorial Day this evening, but certainly if that's part of what people want to talk about in the call-in show, I'm totally for it. Today is my son's first day on summer vacation. He seems to be having a great time. Fortunately, it's still rainy out there. Hoping to actually get some nice weather so we could do some stuff outdoors. That would be nice. First T News. Cover the Destiny drama or you're sweeping. We talked about it last night. Or I'm sweeping. Let me tell you something about me. I don't sweep. That's why I got married. So I don't have to do housework like sweeping. What's there to cover? A bunch of degenerate fucks are being degenerate fucks. All sides suck, pretty much. I don't know. I don't really care to get much more into it than that. There are terms being thrown around in that where it's just like, yeah, that's all right. Shit posting's fun. There are terms being thrown around in that drama. I don't even fucking know. It makes me dirty just hearing the term. Here's a term I'd never heard until yesterday. You ready for this? Age play. Now, I didn't dig in. I guess I could assume that's, I would assume, pretending for flirting reasons to be a different age than what you are. I'm I'm guessing it's not like I'm 41, but I'm going to pretend to be 38. My assumption is that's not what's going on. That's my guess. When people were mentioning age play, I just don't know. I mean, it's so crazy. I thought I was a fucking maniac growing up. I really did. Like I'm some redneck. I was fucking alcoholic. I got some crazy stories, but by comparison, they all seem cheeky. Like breaking into traveling with this band from Rochester for like a month and going down to New Orleans and getting kicked out of a hotel because we broke into the swimming pool that was supposed to be off limits for the night. That's like my kind of story. Other streamers' story are like, oh shit, I got caught pretending to be a 14-year-old talking to a woman pretending to be 17. What? By the way, I'm not saying that's what Destiny did. I have no clue. I didn't look into the details. I'm just saying, I feel so like there's all this like weird fucking like it's always some fucking weird sex thing. I don't know, man. I'm happy to be out of it. I really am. I don't know. My dramas. I said someone was a shitty moderator, so I'm being sued. You know, that's the drama I fucking I'm involved with. Don't clip that, Gigi. I don't know. Well, anyways, I think we're gonna have a good show today. I think that this is the best damn show in the streaming community. You know? And I hope you all agree with me. I think I deserve to hit that goal of $357 today. That's what I think. Because I'm providing great content for you. So as far as I'm concerned, I deserve to hit that goal. But it's not just me. Even streamers that don't necessarily agree with me also think I deserve to hit that goal. You know? Like, for example, here, let's ask this left wing streamer, Wick, do I deserve to hit that goal today?
Only if you're a pretty kitty.
Oh. Well, I I guess I don't know about that. Uh, I, I feel like I am not a pretty kitty, so maybe I don't deserve to hit that goal. Well, whatever. We're still going to do the show anyways. As always, I appreciate your donations, but if you don't have donations to give, that's okay. We'll do the show anyways. I'm not about to put on some cat mask or something to beg for scraps of donos. I'll be all right. I can just get a real job. But anyways, I'd appreciate the money if you guys want to send money. But if people want to talk about the Destiny drama or whatever, that's the point of the call-in show, within reason. People want to yell at me about Nick Fuentes, how Nick's the worst, or how I'm too nice to Nick, or Nick's plan's the best and my plan's the worst, or Candace Owens is the best, or Dan Bilzerian's the best, or Jake Shields is actually like some genius mathematician and I've screwed it all up, or Destiny's right about this, or Destiny's opponents are right and said this, that, or the other. Hassan's going to prison. Hopefully he won't get tortured in Guantanamo Bay, but he'll learn his lesson. His dog's probably the one that called the FBI on him because she's tired of getting the shit shocked out of her. What else? People still threatening the life of Donald Trump, allegedly his daughter as well this time. Allegedly. Another shooting outside the White House. Friday night, I had people saying, oh my gosh, airspace is cleared around Iran, and they found a guy that tried to kill Ivanka. This is it. Trump's going to make the area glass. And then all of a sudden, Saturday, it was peace deal imminent. Trump's a bitch. Taco again. I don't know. Who knows? What else is going on? Hey, you guys remember, like, what is it, a month ago now, where some lunatic at the White House press correspondence tried to, like, shoot a bunch of people in the Trump administration? Oh, yeah, that's out of the news. Thank goodness. Whew. That would have been crazy. You know? Oh, yeah, Code Pink under investigation as well. Oh, Jake's got a new. Amazing. Oh, Jesse Lee Peterson. Great. How about this? Trump, his team's announcing a plan, so it claims. Now, hold your horses. But that everyone that has a green card right now has to leave or is in line for a green card, has to leave the country and then reapply, which would be millions of people, which is in its own right fucked up that there are millions of people just waiting for a green card. Remain in, insert whatever shithole country you're coming from. And then once you get your green card, then you can come over. My advice is to not give any of those green cards. But hey, what do I know? Now, it's an excellent plan. And I think all the people that are like super pissed about like Trump's not doing enough for deportations, this would be above and beyond my wildest expectations of what I thought Trump would do. The enforcement of it will be the issue. How do you enforce it? What are you going to kick in doors? Here's the easiest, like, this is what blows my mind. And maybe someone who's fans of other streamers might say this about me. When I get predictions very right, to me it's the most obvious thing in the world. Like, hey, the left's going to be real pissed they lost this election, and so they're going to increase their violence and their lawfare. Wait and see. Again, I predicted this last night. I'll throw out this prediction. You ready? By the time we get to the midterm election, there will be another serious attempt on the life of Trump or people in his administration. It's like, how am I so clairvoyant? How's that possible? Here's an easy prediction. All of the gnashing the teeth. Here's where Trump fucked up, right? And I understand why. Because let's be honest, he does suck in a lot of ways. He's not the champion we need. He's the champion we deserve. Because we suck too, if we're honest. We kind of do. If you really wanted mass deportation, here's what you do. Sure, you deport people, but you do it, you go after the worst of the worst. That we can all agree with, right? The guy that's the molester. Yeah, you get that guy, right? Sure, of course. You particularly go into the cities that are fighting you the most on it. Yep, that's good too. But you also randomly just go after non-horrible criminal illegals. Like, you just go just randomly. Like, okay, we're going to this hotel or this Home Depot in fucking, let's see, Salt Lake City. And we're going to just fucking deport 20 illegals today. Bam. And then we'll be gone. And then we'll move off to Tennessee. Do the same there. Just randomly. You want to make the illegals feel like, wow, at any moment, it doesn't matter. It's like I always said, if you were a hostile foreign power, right, and you were going to launch an attack on the United States, like some fucked up attack, whether it be a direct assault or terrorism or something, of course it makes sense to do things like attack New York City, attack DC. But it would probably make sense to attack locations that seemingly don't make sense. Like just some suburban area or some rural area. Not that I'm cheering for this, it'd be fucked up. But I can understand how the U.S. would do this to their enemies as well. Because what you're trying to do is strike fear in the entire country. You don't want it to feel like, well, there are safe zones. There are zones that just won't be. You don't want that, right? So Trump should do all of those things. But then what's even more important than that is, it is true, one of the criticisms that the left had against Trump is that it would be nigh on impossible to physically deport the millions upon millions upon millions of illegals. That's sort of true. It would be. So what you do is you make the environment so inhospitable to illegals that they go home. And I think Trump administration's done some of that, but here's the sort of things you do. Take away their incentive for being here in the first place. So, number one, you go after the businesses. The place that's intentionally hiring illegals. You go after them. That's good, right? Trump won't do that because those dudes are his friends. Those dudes are the Republican donor class. And that's on Trump. But he really should be doing that. When Trump says, I talked to all these farms and they said these illegals, what Trump should be doing saying, yeah, all of you farmers and factories that hire illegals, come on into the White House and we'll talk about this. And then slap handcuffs on all the motherfuckers on their way out the door. That's what he should do. Be like, there, motherfucker, you're intentionally hiring illegals? It'd be one thing if you're like, dude, I didn't know this guy had fake papers, etc. Okay, fine. But when you're, oh, Mr. Trump, but we hire these people and they're good workers. Bam! Lock up the CEO that did that, right? Now, there was a court decision recently that sort of, it didn't really do that, but it went in the lines of that. And as far as I'm concerned, it was one of the most impactful court decisions that no one's talked about. And that was a 9-0 decision saying that there is civil liability for the companies, the shipping companies that hire people with CDLs that are fake. So formerly, you could sue the CDL company, the company that issued the license, but not the shipping company. The shipping company would be like, they showed us an ID. That's all we needed. They showed us a CDL, commercial driver's license. Now you could go after these people. So I've already heard stories from the truckers I know that you see all these fucking foreign-born looking truck drivers that are just sitting in the parking lot of these places because they can't get anything to haul anymore because these companies are like, fuck that. Nope. Now it's going to cost us the bottom line. That's the shit you got to do. You make the people that are employing the illegals, you make it so painful to them that they're like, we don't want to do that anymore. And then you force people to provide evidence of who they are, social security numbers, etc., for banking. And of course, you cut off all social programs. Yep, that's what you do. Then you don't have to worry about mass deportation. You just watch the people go, well, shit, I don't get a benefit. We talked about this the other day during the last week's Collins show. Our friend Premonition was like, what if we brought all the troops home and we spent that money improving all of these countries, Haiti, Ecuador, wherever, where these illegals are coming from? You'll never be able to make their country so good that all of a sudden it's more profitable for these people to return home. We're giving them free health care. We're giving them free housing subsidies. We're giving them free food stamps. We give their children free citizenship that they have here. So for me, it's problem is they don't want to do that. That is true, but here's the issue. Getting the ball rolling and moving in that direction is better than voting Democrat and bringing 10 million more people in. Trump's not perfect. He never was. The problem is the guy with the perfect sort of politics, and by perfect I mean with immigration doing exactly what many of us want, never had a chance to win because they weren't a self-financed billionaire, and the whole system wants these illegals in here. So when we get someone who is a self-financed billionaire that at least goes in the right direction, a lot of people that otherwise would claim to want that to occur are like, it's not good enough for us. Let's vote in the people that want to leave tens of millions back in. Okay, brilliant. Then we'll get a real purity candidate that'll do exactly what we want, that won't have a chance of winning a primary and will get swapped out, as is always the case, by more establishment people. He didn't. The idea that he lied, I asked people, define mass deportation. Every single person has a different number. It has to be 3 million a year. It has to be 2 million a year. Net negative migration isn't enough. Mass migration means something different to every other person. They lied. Trump lied. He lied about it. So now we're going to vote for the people that aren't lying, that'll tell us they'll bring in 10 to 20 million people. Xphobic, feel free to call in again and get your ass handed to you again, just like your boy Nick got his ass handed to him on Steven Crowder's show. I don't know what to say. Continue to have the same argument. Let me tell you this time why really we need to vote Democrats to bring in tens of millions of more people to deport people. This time I have the argument. Now we really got it. This time, I've thought about it a lot this past week. And if we average bringing in about 3 million a year voting for Democrats, that'll help us deport more. There's no talking sense into you. You seem like a perfectly decent guy. I could say the same of a lot of the people that follow this ideology, but there is no talking sense. Many of them are accelerationists. They're perfectly fine with shit getting as bad as possible because they want to bring on a collapse as soon as possible. Okay, so 1 million a year. 1 million a year is the specific. So everyone, if I could find Nick Fuentes saying mass deportation would be more than 1 million a year, or anyone that says that, you'd say, that's a lie. That's never what was promised. It was 1 million a year. That's what you would say. Those people are lying that are saying that it was supposed to be more than 1 million a year. Just to be clear, that's your claim now. It's not interventionist, it is accelerationist. Unfortunately. So, but that's what ought to be happening. It's okay to criticize and say we need to go further without saying this means go back in the opposite direction. I want 1 million a year being deported, and the actual numbers are only about 600 something thousand. So because I didn't get that million, I'm going to vote for the party that will bring in another 10 to 20 million in 4 years. Cool. Then when the next guy gets in and he says, "Look, I tried, but I can't. I'm president. I can't. I need legislator to vote for this shit, and they're not doing it." Then Xphobic and Nick and all them will go, "You know what we should do? Vote Democrat again. Bring in another 20 million people. If we could just get 100 million illegals brought in the next 8 years, then I'm sure we could really get the candidate. Then we'll really get a candidate that'll go from deporting 600,000 to 1 million a year." That'll get them. That'll do it. Okay, so he did 1/4 of what was suggested. Let's say he did 0. Let's say he deported 0. So the answer is he deported 0. Vote for the people that'll bring in 20 million more over the next 5 years. Brilliant. It's a brilliant strategy. And by the way, this plan will make it more likely that we get traditional Republicans that don't want any deportation and don't even talk about it. Where all the donor class is. I don't buy that reasoning. Yeah. Makes sense. New York Times puts the number 230 to 350,000 that don't count turnaways in the first year. Of course, it's going to fuck with me. Anyways, that's what you're going. So you guys could talk about whatever you want here within reason. You want to talk about drama with particular streamers, that's fine. You want to explain to us how we need to bring in 20 million people because you're upset that only 250,000 were deported in the first year. That's fine too. We could talk about that. You know, I was on a diet and I promised everyone that I would stop eating cookies. But I did eat a cookie yesterday, so I might as well eat 10 pounds of chocolate cake today to get back on track with my diet, right? Makes sense. Because I ate that cookie yesterday. Makes sense. That'll show me. That'll teach the future me, right? To eat less cookies. If I eat more cookies now. Makes sense. All right. But whatever you want to talk about's fine by me. That's the point of the show.
If you're a pretty
You know, you have to ask yourself, will it mix? I mean, let's just ask an expert. Will it be the case that if we vote for mass importation by voting Democrats, if we vote for mass importation by voting Democrats, will that lead to less illegals here? Let's bring in an expert and see what they think. You think that's the case by voting for mass importation? It'll lead to less. Go ahead. What do you say, expert?
Only if you're a pretty kitty.
Yeah. So I don't think that that's going to work, unfortunately. Yes, I've argued for an alternative solution. Alternative solution. Things were so bad for decades that having someone who had the power to exist with outside the system, as in Donald Trump, to actually be elected was a lightning in the bottle moment. We should take that, and as we've already done, Trump's strongest suit is that he's moved the Overton window. The more victories he's got, the more the Overton window is shifted. And so instead of actually saying, no, let's undo any of the positive things Trump's done, including with the Overton window, to go back to voting Democrats, that will actually make the problem worse. One, the harms right now that are being isolated aren't as bad as what's being told by people like Xphobic and Nick Fuentes. Second, the solution they're offering actually makes the problems infinitely worse. One, it empowers Democrats, which means that they're going to do things like import more of these legals. Second, it means that the Republicans will most likely take the lesson of we need to go back to sort of a moderate neocon position, such as a Mitt Romney, Paul Ryan, and that's sort of the area that we'll be going. If we proceed with the status quo, what we'll see is a continuing shift to the Overton window. What we could do is continue to push for people in primaries like Ken Paxton that are seen as more of America first. We could criticize Trump when we think he's doing things we don't like and praise Trump when we think he's doing things we do like. Instead of claiming that he's just a PDF protector, he's controlled by the Jews, and that we always assume anything that he's trying to do is negative. That would be my direction of pushing things in the right direction. But I guess we could stamp our feet, vote Democrat, and then say, oh my God, look, they left millions of illegals in. See, we told you. As if you're not the very people that just voted for that very position. That would be mine. No, you don't need a camera, but I am going to be very quick if anyone decides that they're going to violate terms of service. Now, it doesn't matter how many times I talk about that solution. All these people that are sit here and piss and moan and complain, it's like, okay, what'd you do? Did you run for office? I did. Did you push for people to help in primaries? I did. Though not much this year, if I'm honest, not in Pennsylvania. So what is it that what's your all solution? We voted Democrat. And then when the immigration numbers went through the roof, we were like, told you. See? Yes, because the people you chose to win won. Again, if I could 100% be guaranteed this plan of Nick's vote Democrat would result in a more right-wing Republican candidate, fine, I might say it's worth it. But when you hear Nick, again, I'll have it up soon, the debate review I did. When you hear Nick's plans, just like, I know it's a leap of faith. We don't know. We just have to try something. Yes, the current administration's progressing. It's moved somewhat in the right direction, but not enough. So vote Democrat. It's like, this doesn't sound well thought out at all. Anyways, we have 2 hours. We already have 4 people lined up. All right, couple things. The link to call in, all you need is a microphone. I prefer if you have a camera if you're not a regular, but it doesn't matter. Just know that if you're not a regular, because people are trying to screw with my channel, we're going to have a very quick switch to boot you out. So no offense if you were like, oh no, I was just trying to make a joke or something. It is what it is because people were trying to get my channel banned. So, whatever. Links at the top or the bottom, wherever you're at on YouTube or Rumble. Please consider sending in super chats and donations. If this show isn't doing very well with donations in the long run, then I'll probably just scrap it and do something more useful to the night show with this time, like more research, etc. I do like this show, though, so I hope it does well. And then, thanks, John McCarty. Yeah, we'll see. And then, keep it terms of service friendly. So, no homophobic slurs, no calls to violence, nothing illegal, anything of that case. I don't think it's the Destiny people. The Destiny people aren't the ones that... Destiny never said, hate rated over to my channel after talking shit on me, and then had his people immediately say that they were going to get my channel banned. That wasn't Destiny. That was a different community. But anyways, super chats real quick, then we'll begin. How long, Nate? $20. Thank you, my friend. Says, oh, wait, 1 second. I want to do this. There we go. Says, what asshats? People taking free entertainment, not even liking the stream. Thanks for the entertainment today. So thank you, Nate. I know you're our first caller as well. Left-handed assassin, $5, and then another $5. Thank you so much. Well, I don't think anyone will dox you. I actually like talking to you, and I'm against doxing anyways. And as far as I know, no one in my community's ever done shit like that. So I hope that wouldn't be the case. But fair enough. Look, not everyone likes to call in. I get that. Xphobic did call in at least once, though. GG, $5 says, dono button still works. Others should check, too. Yeah, that's true. We need people checking. All right. Are you ready to go, first caller? Let's see. I think we have our first caller lined up. Caller? You ready to go?
Only if you're a pretty kitty.
Oh. Oh, no. No, that's no good. So we'll put that caller on hold. I don't think we can talk to them. But what we will do is go to our first caller. The lineup is our good friend How Long Nate, followed by Megamax, followed by Futoy, and followed by the Jabroni. Get in line now if you'd like to call in. What always happens is a bunch of people join in the last half hour, and then I got to go. So we're only going to go till 2:30. So we got about 2 hours of call-ins. Any topic that you want within terms of service. So first up, we'll bring in our good friend Nate. Just to forewarn you all, sometimes there's a little lag with Nate. So if that's the case, there might be some dramatic pauses, but that's just because he's probably truck driving as we go. So what is happening today, Nate? How you doing, man? Nate, can you hear me? All right.
It's a wonderful day.
Good to hear from you, man. What's happening? Oh, he dropped out. Now, one thing I will say about my callers is a lot of them tend to be working and truck drivers and stuff. So sometimes you got to bear with the connection, but I think it's worth it to hear from a lot of these people. We'll try it. Nate, can you hear me, man?
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, this is a lot better.
All right. So what's on your mind today, man? How's it going?
Oh, going great. I don't think people really understand how many levels of industry that these H-1Bs and the illegal immigrants or these temporary status people are involved in. I'll use my home area, for example, in eastern Utah. There are 3 butcher locations that use H-1B visas because they can have them work for 9 months at a time, send them home for another 9 months, and then bring them back. While they are there, they live on location, and they are given very little time off, and it is basically just a work camp. They just cannot get any citizens to agree to that kind of work schedule.
Yeah, I mean, this is something, you're absolutely right. So, like, the industry everyone thinks about is the tech industry, though it's certainly that this is true either in the form of H-1Bs or in the form of maybe illegals as well. Both of them have the same issue in different ways, which is if you hire them, they basically have no other place to go. Illegals for reasons we could talk about later. But with the H-1Bs, you're absolutely right. So look at the tech industry. You're Amazon. And you're like, well, we need people that like do coding. So you hire 1,000 H1Bs. And let's say your staff also includes 1,000 other people that you hire that are American at the same level. Every one of those Americans can negotiate with other companies and leave your company for a better salary if they feel it's worth it. So they start progressing, they get good reviews, they interview well, they go to another company, and they come back to Amazon and they say, "Hey, company so and so offered me, another $20,000 a year. Can you match that?" Or if Amazon says no, you say, "Okay, then I'm leaving." The H1Bs are stuck because when they get hired, part of their condition is they're only allowed to remain in the country and so long as they're employed by this company. So they can't do that. They can't say, "Oh, okay, now I want to go work for Netflix. I work at Amazon," because Amazon had to fill out paperwork saying, "We tried to get an American for this job," which is all bullshit. Like they fake this, but we tried to get an American for this job, but we couldn't. So now we have to hire an H1B. So it allows them to have less competitive wages, work them harder, because it means that they're incapable of going elsewhere. And so the result is what happens is it drives down pay for everyone, for all of the American citizens, and it prioritizes. You're at an advantage if you're a big company to hire H1Bs because there's no competition. You could do whatever you want with those employees, and to the extent that they will ever get mad, you could say, "Okay, we don't need you, then go home." And you send them back to India or wherever other country they come from. So yes, it is absolutely damaging to not just the people that like are coming over here on that, as far as, I mean, it's still beneficial to them because they'd rather be here than whatever country they come from. But the real victim is the American people that want to otherwise get hired for those sorts of jobs.
Right.
Of course, the other thing is, it turns out many times you hear reports these H1Bs do shitty jobs because they could get all sorts of credentials from over in India that are bullshit. It's sort of like the CDL thing. They just get some fucked up university in India to say, yeah, this guy's a coder, sure. And then send him over, and you hear these stories over and over again. Well, these people don't know what the hell they're doing. And as a result, the product they're turning out gets worse. It's just slop. You're hiring slop people. You hope that the Americans you've hired will train them, and then you could fire them. And then these people will do the job for much less money that you control, but they're turning out bullshit. So it seems like short-term profits, but what it does is it makes all these products and the end, whatever they're making, it makes it come out worse in the end. So and you could take this same thing then with like illegals or foreign-born people in the trucking industry. Sure, your fucking, knickknack that you're buying cost 2% less because the shipping costs are lower because we hired some dude that can't read the road signs to fucking drive the truck that's going to wreck and kill people. But what that also means is the millions of people in the trucking industry like your wages have been artificially suppressed. And so it's like our whole system's built on this, economic system's built on all of these house of cards. And one of the house of cards is cheap imported labor that you can control. And all of the people, all these business people, they don't give a fuck about right or left. They don't care about that. They just care about wanting that model to keep going. We want cheap labor. That's what we want. And so they'll continue to push for policies that allow this shit.
Right. Well, it's not just these. It's not just the big companies and like the tech and trucking. It's also affected like the 3 locations I talked about. They're meat packing plants.
Yep.
Well, there are not enough people in the area who are trained butchers to come in and do that. So they are justified in bringing butchers over from South Africa or from Denmark or from, these other small countries elsewhere where people are still taught and still practice these skills. They're able to be brought in. There's other sectors like baking. People who are actually skilled bakers. There's not enough of those to help run these big plants. There's not for food production. There's not enough people who are skilled and knowledgeable in dealing with animals to help run the ranches. So that's where a lot of the illegal immigrants go to. It really comes down to we have been so pacified by this education, 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 leave all the blue collar work to the new people coming in, that we now don't have a big enough supply of people to actually take it over and be doing it on a domestic scale without importing these people. We've done it to ourselves, and we either need to start training more young people in these specific trades so that we can take those jobs back and not need those in order to supply our food chain, or we just give up and let them have it.
Well, it's a two-part thing, right? One, like we need to deport these people, which makes it a necessity that then we have companies that are willing to pay a living or a wage that is worth what people want to do it. No, if I could get welfare sitting on my ass or work at Walmart for $22 an hour, why the fuck would I want to work at a farm for $10 an hour? The reason the labor at the farm is $10 an hour is because we've imported so many foreigners that are willing to do it for that. And so we get rid of these people, we end the welfare system. For example, I'll show you here something I saw the other day. Now there's definitely, this doesn't paint the whole picture, but it's directionally true. In April, the American male labor force participation hit its lowest rate level since we began keeping track of it in the 1940s. So of working age men, we have less U.S. citizens that are working age men today than we have at any time in history, percentage-wise. Now, part of that's because the population's gotten older since we keep track in 1940. But even if you look at the data beyond that, it's like we've still lost like about 6 to 7% of what we used to have in 1940 with labor force participation for men. So again, all of this stuff's intertwined. We've created economies where so many people have jobs that just aren't necessary. Like the entire financial sector isn't really creating anything worthwhile. It's just moving piles of money from one pile to another. Then we have all of these jobs that are like HR, huge industries like administrator jobs in universities, HR jobs at all these companies. These jobs are fucking worthless. 99% of them do nothing except create problems. I was reading this thread. This big corporation here decided to fire their HR department because, in their words, quote, it was creating problems that justified them solving them. And it turns out, and you could just read thread after thread. And if you've ever worked at a company, I had this experience on a very low level. HR was just there to piss and moan about white men. So that you had to sit through boring fucking meetings about how people misgendered people and this, that, the other. So it's certainly, we've created this economy where it's like all of this fake bullshit jobs that are going to people born in the U.S. largely, and then jobs that are actually important, like blue collar work, we've outsourced because Americans don't want the jobs because so many Americans realize, well, I could just make more on welfare, and shit like that. So then, well, someone's got to do it. And it's a great example of how the people that have pushed us into this cultural moment, then instead of being shamed and saying, oh boy, we fucked everyone, they say, well, you got to turn to us for the solution. So they told us to have women enter the labor force, which predictably led to a bunch of bullshit jobs that we don't need, which predictably led to devaluing labor. So now we have two parents that are necessary, or man and woman that are necessary to live comfortably, as opposed to just one before, which has led a decline in the birth rate, which has led for the need to import more people, which then not only change us culturally, but then use more of the same social services that we were told that we would be able to save by bringing in all of these illegals. They're going to come in and work hard. Turns out not. So it's constantly them fucking, and it's intentional. They want to sort of erode national identity, and they want sort of a one world government, not because they're drinking blood out of skulls, but because they see that as the way for them to consolidate power. And the biggest impediment to that is middle-class, blue-collar people in the first world. You see how much success they're having in the United Kingdom. You see how much success they've had in Canada. And the United States is next. So I'll give you the final word, though.
Definitely. All right, final word. Because of the delay, I'll be quick. Make sure you hit the like on the stream. Make sure that you're subscribed so you get all these. Those two things, plus all the chat engagement, in order to hit the trifecta, like every stream so you get notified. have notifications on all, and then chat a bunch in there. That helps him get a higher percentage out of YouTube. Okay. Second one, just you guys, just use your head. We've got to be able to pull things back into the control of the average person if we're going to make any changes on the federal level. That's all there is to it. And with that, I'll sign out. God bless. Everybody be good.
Take it easy, man. All right. Always appreciate it, Nate. Thank you so much. All right. Let's proceed to get those super chats in. Proctologist, $5 has confirmed to be working, but more confirmation is always better. Oh, thank you. Remember, get those super chats info over on Rumble. You schmohawks. No one's giving any money. That's all right. I still like the Rumble crowd. You guys are awesome too. Yeah, I think it was what's his name? Fisher. I follow him. He's a good account to follow. Let's see. Fisher King? Or was it Roman Helmet Guy? It was one of them. Let's see if I can find this post. It was probably Roman Helmet Guy. Who's awesome, by the way. You should follow him. He says, I'll show you this. He says, going to try to explain this to tech CEOs again. Young Americans are pissed. They feel betrayed. Half have embraced the far right and want to cut you off access from cheap foreign labor. The other half have embraced the far left and want to cut off your head. One side will win. Choose. That's the truth. That's the absolute truth. These CEOs are playing a dangerous game. They're playing a dangerous game when people are saying enough's enough. We want to stop importing third world labor. We want to stop. Stop it. And the CEOs are like, no, fuck you. It's cheaper for us. We're going to keep doing it. What's going to happen is people are going to move on. They're going to move to the left. And left's going to say, Luigi Mangione's a hero. Let's have more of that with these CEOs. Billionaires are immoral. Landlords are immoral. Okay. That's what's going to happen. Buddha Customs, thanks so much for the $5. As for chairs rebuild or retirement fund. Yes, it's coming. It's definitely coming. I'm sorry, Jabroni Big Time. So, look, it's up to these tech companies. The best thing that could happen to them is we actually get like Trump enforces this green card shit. That's the best thing that could happen to the tech people, because on the trend it's going, you as an individual may do very well. You may go from owning one yacht to 2 yachts, and good for you. Great. But you may be Brian Thompson. But some radical lefty is going to see you entering a department store or something and decide, I'm going to take care of that. That's the world you're creating. That's who you're playing footsie with. So, anyways, let's get on to our next caller. The great Mega Max. What's happening today, Max? How you doing?
Nothing much. Doing all right, Rob. How are you?
I'm very good. Having a great
I
day.
can speed through a couple of arguments of why the whole accelerationist vote for Democrat shit doesn't work. One question I real quick that's also an answer is like, when do you start doing the accelerationist shit yourself? Like, why is it always you take L's? We're gonna just slap all these L's on our forehead. When is it time to start smacking some W's on our head? Like, I don't know, accelerationist move, gay marriage banned across the country. We don't care how we do it. It's now the law. Boom, deal with it. That's an accelerationist move right there.
Well,
Also,
I agree. I agree with that position, but also at the individual level. Like, I had someone the other day tell me, I was like, look, I have a son, and I think a lot of these people that are like, fuck it, import 50 million more people and let's make the country unlivable. That way we start to fight back. One, I'm not so sure people would fight back in that scenario. Secondly, why do I want to intentionally bring that on my son? I think a lot of people that suggest this don't have children, and they're like, I got nothing to lose. And the response was, a person was like, well, you know, this is what Nick says, that parents or fathers make bad revolutionaries. It's like, okay, motherfucker, then what are you all doing?
They make pretty good revolutionaries when... I'm busy right now. Sorry,
Getting
I
yelled
was
at.
fucking someone.
But no, I'll just real quick. Like the point is, it's like the people that say that, it's like, oh, cool, lead by example. What are you doing? Well,
Nothing.
I'm chatting right now. I'm at home on my computer right now.
Not
Right.
organizing.
I'm a shitty person because I don't want to send my son off to a civil war. That makes me a pussy. But you all are doing jack shit, is what you're doing. You don't want to be that revolutionary yourself, right? And so
Yeah.
it's
And
very much. But go ahead.
when
I'm
it
sorry.
comes to solving problems and stuff, America's both blessed and cursed by the fact that we do literally our government does not have a fix everything button or switch, unlike the Brits, which do have that via their parliament. It's just sovereign; they can literally do whatever they want. Whereas with us, we have all the checks and balances, and we are cursed by a party that actually cares about doing the process right. Unlike the Democrats, who the moment they get their majorities, they're just going to throw it all out the window. And
Well, that's why they want to pack the court. For years, the Democrats have relied on the courts, right? Gay marriage, court, like all this shit. They relied on unpopular
Roe v. Wade.
shit that was forced through courts, right? Now, what they see is, regardless of what you think of Trump, there's plenty to criticize. And I don't like every decision that's came out of every member of the court. Don't get me wrong. But in general, they're moving back towards a common sense. Like, yeah, man, you can't have racial gerrymandering. You can't do that. Yeah, you can't have DEI. That's racist. Nah, you don't have a constitutional right to kill babies. Sorry, you don't have that. No, I'm sorry. Federal agencies can't just make shit up and have that be the law without it being voted on. This is all common sense shit, right? And when the courts, what's the Democrats' response to that? Once they don't have control of the courts, pack the fucking court, right? That's it. Pack the court. Make DC Puerto Rico a state. Make sure we could never lose again. They're going further than that, by the way, as was correctly pointed out by my co-host Ryan Mullally on my show last Monday. It's not just that they're saying pack the court. They're saying and have mechanisms for the legislator to be able to punish the judges. In other words, Democrats they pack the court. Then they put forth some legislation that says ban all guns. And even with their packed court, they're like, nope, we're not going to allow that. So then the Democrats say, then we should be allowed to punish the judges.
Yeah,
we'll be allowed to say
their
no.
basis for punishing the judges is, oh, they lied. It's like, well,
Well,
yeah, whose fault is that?
Right, and we know
Who
what they mean
created
by
the
lie.
Bork situation?
What is a lie? What is disinformation? As we've talked about many times, they don't mean that it's not true. That's not what they mean, because disinformation could be disinformation, which are things that aren't true. Or, I'm sorry, misinformation, which are things that aren't true, but you didn't know it. Disinformation, which is a lie that you're telling. Or malinformation, which is information that's true, but it goes against the agenda of those in power. So, for example, did you know that vaccines have side effects? But that's malinformation because we want you to take the side effect, or the vaccine. So even though it's true, we're still going to censor it because it's not information we want getting out there. You see it in the UK, you see it in Ireland, and all these places where it's like, oh, well, we don't want, and fuck, you see it in the US. We don't want the race of the murderer being released.
Well,
right? It's true, but
that, especially during a bunch of the terrorist attacks, especially one of them in France, there was like a terrorist attack on this music concert thing. They censored what happened there. They just let you know it was a bombing. But when people interviewed the actual police officers there, it was utter butchery inside there, like truly horrid stuff that would haunt anyone.
The Bataclan? Is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there are reports, like, I don't want to get too graphic because I'm on YouTube, but there are reports of things they did to the babies inside pregnant women, body parts cut off, shoved in mouths, forced to suffocate, body parts cut out and hung on chandeliers.
Yep.
I mean, they said it was like basically a horror movie. The French government still to this day is stopping because this was live streams, not the word, like FaceTime call, like video called to people in ISIS so that they could use this for propaganda videos, right? So they have the video footage. They have it, but they won't leave anyone see it. And they basically have moved along because they don't want people to get upset at Muslims.
Not only that, they're like, but here's the big thing. One of the guys who did that, he's up for like some sort of parole release. They're going to let that guy out.
Yeah, so he was one of the like planners. He didn't involve in the actual killing, but he's one of the people that planned it. And by the way, it was over 100 people killed, right? And they're going to let that dude out. He's so far he served 10 years. They're gonna let him out. He already gets like day release, but they're gonna completely leave him out. Yeah, I was reading this the other day. It's surreal.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, how could that be, man? Like, but if you'd get more time for posting a meme that you're pissed off about that than that guy will get for planning a terror attack that resulted in some of the worst abuses ever recorded.
It's utterly degenerate. The
You know?
system is, and other things with like voting Democrat is like, why are you do you want to give them the mandate? Like, part of the reason why queer Stalin over in Britain is so hated is he got a massive majority off of only 20% of the vote. So he doesn't actually have a mandate. He just like slid into government accidentally because Nigel Farage's Reform Party cut the legs out the conservatives. Then that's why another reason besides how he's an evil, soulless representative of the system, everyone hates Keir Starmer, is he literally does all this insane, unpopular crap with literally no mandate.
Well, and even here in the United States, here's the thing. Like, here's Trump distilled down. There's a lot about Trump. Trump has a big ego, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think it can be.
Technically, if you're going to rule the world, everyone's got to have a big ego.
Right,
like Obama had a massive ego.
Right. Some dude like me is never going to be president, in part
just-
because I don't want to be, because I don't have that big of an ego.
Uh-huh.
I have an ego, but not that big. But anyways, Trump wants to be liked. That's a big part of it. But another part of it, so he could be changed, right? I think if Democrats would have just kissed his ass, he'd probably do much more with them. But the other part of it where people get wrong is, I think Trump's just like, hey, I have my own things. And some of it's on a whim, I think. Or some of it's just he gets something in his head and he's like, yeah. So, like, everyone's like, even though I don't like the Iran attack, I don't. People are like, well, this is because he's a puppet of Netanyahu. I don't see it that way. I see that he's being told, he's like, yeah, I believe this. Let's attack these motherfuckers.
Yeah, no, I believe that too.
But then also when like the same neocons are like, yes. And oh, by the way, let's increase H-1Bs. He may just be like, nah, I don't give a fuck about that. Nope.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you do, you have to support John Cornyn. Nah, fuck you. And they're like, what? How could you say that? You're on our team. And he's just like, no, I just have my own things.
You guys suck now.
And
I just realized that you guys suck.
Yeah, and half the time it's like, they'll be like, hey, you got to go easier on the press. And Trump's like, yeah, I hate the press. I don't give a fuck. I don't care. I'm going to go hard against the press. And so people are like, oh, it's this big nefarious plot by, Netanyahu that's controlling and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I don't think it's that. I really don't. Do I think they're like whispering in his ear and saying, yeah, this is good. Of course. But do I think that that's what this is about? No, not in Trump's mind. Right. No. And for me, it's like, when you look and you see that, like, at least he is seen as someone that's an outsider, and he makes it more likely that other people that are seen as outsiders can eventually win within the Republican Party. And the response we get from people is, fuck that, vote Democrat and make sure the Republicans go back to Paul Ryan. That's what we want.
Ooh,
maybe we'll vote for John fucking Cornyn,
Ooh.
It's
one
I
of those
don't
things
understand it,
For better or for worse, Trump is the king of the Republican Party at this moment, and it's actually a good thing that he is. It's way better because if you can get his attention and make the argument and stick with him on it, you could get him to like drop these people, especially now that these people have all been doing various backbiting things against him. Like Thomas Massey deserved his loss. I don't care anyone's argument of, Israel and all this. No, Massey earned his hatred because he was literally a grandstanding lolbert at the end of the day. Yeah. He didn't vote against any of Biden's budget deficits. And when he gave his cope on why he did it, it was the stupidest cope possible. Oh, well, they promised they would do things that I would like. It's like, yeah, and you believe them, moron? Really? He didn't care about the stuff until Trump was in office, and it was something to grandstand on. And instead of just being, what's the word I'm looking for? Charitable to Trump's administration, in that you could literally just blame it all on Pam Bondi of saying she sucked ass. Pam Bondi sucks. And that's why all this Epstein file stuff isn't going through, right? Because technically, when Trump signed the executive order to release all the Epstein files, his job was done right there. He did everything that he needed to do. It was all on the FBI and the DOJ to do that. And Pam Bondi sucked. That's why it didn't.
Well, and there's blame to go with Trump too. There is, but you're right.
Yeah.
Pam Bondi sucked. The point is though, like, one of the things that I think is people don't understand like the leverage you would have against Trump, right? If you come out like again, I'm not here calling Nick Fuentes a Fed. I'm not. I'm
Yeah.
assuming best motivations. I know a lot of people think he is, but if when you're people like that, or maybe a Massey or whatever, you have to understand that Trump's going to be transactional. And if you just come out and say, "Hey, fuck you, I hate you, I'm never voting for you," but all
And
the way,
now-
by the way, Mr. Trump, could you do this thing that we'd like? Trump's going to be like, "Go fuck yourself."
Well,
How
not
about
only
that?
but it's like
How
you're
about go fuck
this
yourself? The
is
neocons
the Epstein
who suck, the
administration.
neocons who suck, they're at least saying, Mr. Trump, we'll do this for you. They may lie, but
Oh,
they're
they
at
all
least playing the game. The
Oh.
people that are like, fuck you, Trump, purity test, fuck you, man, you're the fucking worst. Okay. Then they're surprised when it's like, Trump doesn't give a shit about, like, and so for me, the ultimate was like Thomas Massey. Like, Massey loses, and then a bunch of Massey
By
fans,
10 points.
including people like Nick Fuentes, are like, now we're really mad. Now we're going to vote Democrat harder. And it's like,
Okay.
you still get
You
one
didn't even
ballot,
save your boy.
motherfucker. You already said that you guys are all voting Democrat. What's the point? You already gave it away. You already said, nope, this is what we're doing no matter what. Okay, then that's it. What leverage do you have at this point? You can just stamp your feet and say, well, now I'm even more mad, so I'm going to keep doing the same thing. Okay. Like, at least if you're trying to negotiate, if you're like, look, up until the election, these are the things we want and we're considering. And then 2-3 weeks out, you say, you know what? Never mind. We're voting Democrat. At least that would have more strategy
But
behind
like
it than
as
what
you
we
said
see
before,
now.
and was shown in the Nick Fuentes Crowder debate, there's no actual plan. There's just like vague hope and cope. There's no actual plan, and so it's just like, why would we even go with this? I mean, with Donald Trump, one of the things that annoyed me about the whole Iran thing was we just did it. And it's like, all right, guys, what was the actual plan here? I don't mean like we need a hard deadline. We're going to be out in 6 months, sort of thing. It's like, no, these things will take as long as we need to do them. But what's the actual plan? How are we going to permanently defang the mullahs? Are we going to? Because we're going to have to regime change if we want to actually like fix this problem and make it permanent. This fix. Are we going to regime change properly and install the next what was the guy's name? Shaw. Are we going to do that? Are we going to make a Shaw? Are we going to do something like Britain, where that's a parliamentary system, that's a constitutional monarchy, but the Shaw is just like a figurehead of the state? What are we going to do here, guys? It's just like, oh, we're just going to do something. We're going to beat them. We're going to blow them up and then make a deal. It's like, great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan. We'll see what happens. I think the doom and gloomers that this is going to be like the most impactful thing ever, I think they're just probably not correct about that, but we'll see. I suppose that could be the case. Either way, as of what I've seen right now, it's not enough for me to say, well, I'm no longer supporting Trump or Republicans. I could criticize the shit out of this and still say, given that we have a two-party system, they're the benefit. They're still better than the opposition, and try to work within the system. But I'm certainly not willing to vote Democrat. That would do all this shit even worse.
Well, not only that, but it's like, I think there is a silver lining to this in that this Iran thing went so poorly that this has burned the Trump on the pro-Israel guys, in my opinion, from what I've seen. Because it's like Netanyahu made the argument, oh, they're so weak, we can do this. This will be quick and easy. Everyone else was telling Trump, no, not a good idea, man. And he's like, no, I think Netanyahu's not bullshitting us this time. Let's do it. They did it, and it's like, oh, these guys are just like liars and such. Burned on that one. We're not going to listen to you guys anymore. So if you guys were going to juiceberg about Trump, oh, he's controlled by Israel, it's like, I don't think anymore after this whole debacle. I think, at the very least, for the most part, Trump often learns his lessons on these sorts of
Well,
things.
I also don't know. I'll be honest. I don't know where everyone's getting that it's like, people are like, this is a loss. Maybe I'm the only person that's a fucking idiot. I'm like, how? So we killed 40-something members of leadership. If we end up with, I mean, we'll see what happens. It looks like we severely diminished their ability to have like a military. And it looks like there is a chance, I don't know, we'll see, with any sort of negotiation, what's said in a negotiated deal, and then if it actually happens, that we're getting all of their nuclear material. Like, if that happened and it was like, oh, and you know, I don't understand how we evaluate this so clearly as a loss already. I don't get
I
it.
think part
Right?
of it is
I would
because we
say that
allowed
part of
the
what I would say part of what went on was this. I think that Trump talked to China the other day, right? And he's talking to Xi, and he's like, "Here's the deal, man. Here's what's going on. We're willing to negotiate with you for a favorable position. You're kind of screwed right now. We can hold out. Sure, I might lose the midterms, but we can hold out until 2028. We don't care. And we're just going to up domestic energy production. We'll be okay. People be pissed. Democrats will win. Even now, if we look at projections, you're looking at Democrats having a tough time to win the Senate, and they're probably looking to win the House by 5, 6 seats, something like that. It's
and
not
even
going to
then,
be a
from what I've heard, it's
catastrophe
going to
for
be pretty competitive too. Some
yeah,
of those
it's not going to
races.
be catastrophic, right? And Trump's like, look, we're really putting the squeeze on you here, China. So here's the deal. We're going to go negotiate like a better deal, trade deal with you and us that like stops you because right now China's rising and the United States is falling. Do I think China's going to get to the point in the next 20, 30 years where they surpass the United States? No, but they're certainly getting closer. And the problem is, as I said, for since Trump came into office, the way that Trump and Vance are looking at that is that, or looking at things is this way. Inevitably, radical change needs to happen. And the best time for that radical change to have is now. Because as time goes on, the United States bargaining is going to get less and less and less and less and less. We don't manufacture anything. We're the world reserve currency. And inevitably, the world's going to say, you know what, we've changed
We
our
don't
mind.
like you.
Then the United States is in a real bad position because we have geared our entire economic situation to just basically exporting dollars. So when that's no longer the case, what do we have to fall back on? Well, we're in a lot of trouble. So the entire plan with tariffs and all this other stuff is we need to radically change things to negotiate deals now to increase our trade capacity and hopefully encourage manufacturing to come back to the United States. The problem is it's a long-term effort. This isn't something you're going to snap your fingers and it's going to happen overnight. Now, I still don't like the Iran attack, but it would make sense in the context of that it's like, well, we're trying to put ourselves in a better position vis-a-vis China. Now, what does that look like 3 years from now? I don't know. It is entirely possible that 3 years from now we could see a as or more radical leader of Iran, and that we're being told again, they're enriching nuclear material. That's entirely possible. And at that point, you'd say, what was still gained of all this? It's also entirely possible that the new regime could be being told by allies such as China that are supposedly allied with them and other Arab nations like, that shit's done. You're not doing that shit anymore. And that shit stops and this leads to a better position against China. That's possible as well. But the people that are just like, that's it, we've lost, we're fucked for years. I don't know. I don't know.
I think part of it is just we allowed the Iranians to do the cockroach strategy. We didn't go full in Terminex style. It's like, all right, guys, because part of that would be no one wants to commit boots on the ground. If we want to actually like fully deal with this on some level, eventually boots have to go on ground occupying the streets. I don't like it. Nobody likes it. And part of it too is just like of the one country that we have like good reasons to stomp on. What it's like, why did the neocons have to poison everyone on it by making that their big white whale that they're chasing after? Because, like, as Ryan pointed out before, it's like we've had Casus Belli to do whatever we wanted to Iran for a long, long time if we wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, again, I don't like this attack. I think ultimately what we're likely to see is that it'll have a net negative when we leave, but it won't be that severe. I don't know. But the people, I mean, as you can see, the Nick Fuentes followers think this is the worst thing that's ever happened, which justifies us voting Democrat to allow them to pack the court, to allow them to make D.C. a state, to allow them to make Puerto Rico a state, to bring in 20 million more illegals. It's all worth it. The only thing that matters is this could not have been made more clear when Crowder was like, if I give you mass deportations, if I give you everything that you ever wanted, but I still say, yeah, we are right to attack Iran, could you vote for me? No.
Yeah, there
you go. That's
dead.
So,
dead right there, no.
I don't know. I don't, right now, I put this on the scale of things I don't like a 3 out of 10 or a 4 out of 10, 5 being neutral on it. It could become a 2 or a 1, I guess, if boots on the ground and thousands of U.S. troops are lost or some shit like that. Yeah, it would be fucking catastrophic. Right now, it's been 13 troops, which is horrible. And I don't know. So, But all I'm saying is the idea that this is just an obvious loss for the United States and Iran won, they're kicking ass. I don't see it that way right now. I really don't. So,
No,
but
this is sort of like that. I don't know. It's the one guy who just never gets, who always keeps getting back up no matter how many times he gets kicked. And everyone's like, oh, he's winning on that one. You still didn't beat him yet.
yeah, I mean that's what it is. Iran's win condition is holding out until domestic opinion switches so bad for Trump that he's forced to pull out. That's Iran's win condition, right? Like the idea that they're like winning militaristically, they're just not, right? Now they might win when it comes to this results in Trump pulling out, and then they end up in a similar position. I don't think they're in a stronger position. I don't than when this started. I don't think that's the case. I think they suffered terribly economically. Now, it may be that it incentivizes them to build up over the next 10 years or so. I suppose that's the case. But, well, anyways, Mega Max, always a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for calling in.
Yeah, glad to see you're doing the call-ins again.
Yeah, of course. It's my pleasure. So thanks, man.
Yep, see you around.
See ya. All right. I said right now the official numbers is 13 service people died. I didn't say how many injured. You tell me how many are injured, Robert. Go ahead. Tell me the number. I'm happy to hear it. Let's hear your number. Oh, you don't know? How many people were injured militaristically before we went to Iran, just with training exercises? You think that hundreds? Okay, cool. Can I see your source? It's just a gut feeling. The average is 22 service members a month die in training exercises from the United States. So in effect, this would be 40 extra, which is tragic. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, just a gut feeling. I don't know how to argue against that. So, super chats. How long, Nate? Thanks again, man. $10 says, need to check the browser history of about 130 people lurking in chat. Tap the thumbs up and drop your final pup play costumes. Thank you so much. And then Brendan, $5 over on Rumble says, there's at least one guy willing to throw down. Thank you, Brendan. Thank you so much. All right. Yeah, about the average is like, it's like 20, I think, on average. I looked this up for a debate I was prepping for. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. All right. We got 3 callers on the list. Fatoy, Mr., and the Redaman in that order. Make sure you're getting those donos in. We will still have time for more callers, so you can click the link that should be pinned there. So, yeah, I talked about Hunter Biden on Candace Owens. He sucks. Candace sucks. All right, Fatoy, you ready? What's happening, my man?
How's it going, Rob?
Doing very good.
Is my mic good?
Yep, you sound good.
Awesome. Thanks for having me up.
Sure.
I'm a bit slurry now. It's not because I'm drunk. I don't drink. I've had some dental work, and I have a little denture that isn't fitting good anymore. So I sound like this, unfortunately. Yeah, I just wanted to come up and expand on something you said. Right? You said that Trump isn't the president we want. He's the one we deserve.
Yeah.
So I'd like to expand on that a bit and take it just even beyond politics, right? All the issues we have on the planet we have right now is the planet we deserve, I think myself. Now, I don't want to come across as preachy because I'm not trying to preach. I'm trying to map where we're going as the human race, as civilization, right? And when you look at things like obesity, it's because we rely on fast food, those sort of issues, right? We spend a large majority of our lives trying to sell people shit or people trying to sell us shit, right? It's a huge part of our lives, regardless how it affects the planet, right? Pollution-wise and all that. And again, I don't want to sound preachy, but I was watching a little mini documentary there this morning, and it was about Amish kids going over to England and Scotland They have this thing where at a certain age, when they're teenagers, they get a certain period of time where they get to go out of the Amish community to see what the world is like. They call it Romspringer, something like this.
Yeah.
And so they went to England, and the people were asking them questions, and the Amish kids just like were oblivious to a lot of these questions. Like one of the questions was, "What do you think about global warming?" And the kids were like, one of the kids were like, "Well, I don't really believe it because last winter was really cold, and I mean we've had some cold winters, so they were oblivious to what's causing it, what it really is, what it's about, and that's because." The way they live their lives is so simplistic that they're not part of these problems that we're having in the world. They're not part of it. They're not causing it. I'm not advocating for everybody to be Amish. I'm just trying to make a point that that where we're going as a human race is using up all the resources, fucking up the planet.
All right. Said plenty. First off, yeah, I'm not buying the environmental claptrap. Like, fuck that green shit. I suppose we could all force ourselves becoming Amish and lead to like 80% destruction of the world by adopting green energy policies. I would not like to see 80% of the world die based on false climate change estimates that turned out to be absolute bullshit. Some of the people I know that have embraced technology have done more for the environment than almost anyone you could believe, particularly right-wingers around here that are prolific hunters, etc. Due to technological advancements, we've actually been able to do a lot to actually improve the environment. Can you say that as a whole, humans have changed the environment in significant ways? Yeah, but what's the problem with that necessarily? The idea that I'm supposed to venerate Earth over humans? Why? I don't necessarily see that. To your greater point, I think there's truth to that, sometimes people behave as a whole as selfish or in stupid ways. I get it. I could also make excuses for that's the case, but sure, fair enough. The veneration of the Amish. Now, look, I live in Amish community, and I know many Amish people, and I'll just say the idealistic version that some people have of what the Amish is laughable to me, living in the community. They have all sorts of fucking problems. Like, for example, did you know that there are Amish people that get raided all the time for beating the shit out of their horses and their dogs? They have puppy mills that are some of the most disgusting thing you'd ever see for the poor treatment that they have with dogs. Not all of them, but that's certainly a problem you see in Amish communities that pops up from time to time. They have marital disputes and everything. They just handle it in-house. Right? A lot of those people go on Rumspringer and don't come back because they actually find that the constrained life that they have under Amish isn't the life for them. So, I mean, I agree. You're not saying everyone become Amish. There's certainly a lot of things that life simplified if you decide to just be someone that's like Amish or like live off the land, shirk all technology, etc. But you do also lose a lot, and it's not a life for everyone. And it, in particular, doesn't like becoming a Luddite and just foregoing all technology. Sounds romantic, but there's a reason that many people decide not to do that because it's not all glorification. And you might say, well, maybe you'd be happier in the long run if you do that. Maybe, maybe not. So I don't know.
Yeah, I see exactly what you're saying. Now, as I said, I wasn't saying everybody should be Amish. I was trying to more point out that we causing our own problems, right?
Yeah, we definitely when I was saying we get the people we deserve, it's because we're flawed, right? Like we are flawed and we're lazy when it comes to politics. A lot of people, but it's not necessarily a negative trait. And it is, I guess, at the end of the day, but a lot of it's because people are focused on other things that are more important. Sure, there's people that are overinvested in technology and things like that, but most of the people I know that aren't involved in politics, it's because they work 9 to 5 and they're raising 4 kids. And they like spending time with their family. And they don't want to sit down and read the Mueller report. And they don't want to sit down and read everything there is under COVID, right? But because of that, we end up with a president that's flawed, right? If we as a society were trying to sit down and look and like actually be studious, I'm lumping myself in with this as well. Like, if you sit there and did all of this reading and, like, we voted for people that were less based on personality and stuff and more based on ideology, then Trump wouldn't be the type of president we would have ended up with. But because of the years of the subversion of our societies through these people and institutions that wanted to basically collapse our way of life, the one guy we get that's sticking up for us isn't an ideological Puritan. He's someone that's like, fuck you. I don't like when you fuck with me. And he happens to be fighting against many of the same people that are fucking with me. So that's the candidate I get because he's in a unique position where he's charismatic, where he's independently wealthy, where he has the same enemies that many of the other people have, the mainstream media, the establishment left, etc. And so that's what I'm saying. We don't have the guy that's like, hey, I'm in that position to win and I want deportation of every illegal. We don't have that guy, and we are unlikely to get that guy to win an election unless we keep moving the Overton window more to the right.
Right. I think kind of you're focusing, which isn't wrong. It's just what you do. But and I'm kind of a bit different in this way. You're focusing on the finite stuff, right? Where I pull out a bit, and I'm saying, right, so we got to take a bit of responsibility for ourselves instead of when things go wrong saying, well, it was them or he did it or she did it or that group of people did it or because you voted this way, that's why it's all gone to shit. No, it's all gone to shit because of what we do ourselves. We have to be responsible for what we do, for our choices.
Well, that's definitely true, but there is room for also isolating. Like, do you mind me asking what country you're in?
Ireland.
You're in Ireland. There's a lot of problems in Ireland, right?
Well, it's Europe in general. I mean, Ireland's pretty good. I mean, Ireland's one of the richest.
If you have a young girl in your family, a niece, a daughter, or something, and she gets assaulted by migrants, and the local police turn away, and the politicians say that you're going to jail for, you could say, well, what could I have done better? You can, but I think you're also right to point out to what the people with power foisted on you, you know?
Yeah, but you got to realize that mainstream media play everybody, right? These sensational stories, immigrants running around raping everybody. That's not the reality, all right?
It's not.
No. The bigger issue when it comes to Europe, if you guys are interested, I'm not sure if you are, but the biggest issue that I see in Europe is that there's so many illegal immigrants and immigrants in general, even legal ones, being thrust upon us that it's to the. I don't mind helping anybody. I'm not against anybody, but I see that our cultures are being heavily diluted by the sheer amount of people from a completely different culture, a completely different legal system, a completely different way of even treating women, for example. That's the biggest impact and the biggest problem I see in Europe at the moment, for me.
And,
right?
So just to be clear, so the rape thing's a myth, right?
No, it's not a myth.
If we look at the data,
it's not a myth.
If we look at the data, right, what we see is in 2004 to 2005 in Ireland, there was approximately 300 assaults like this a year, which was about 8 to 12 rape per 100,000 women. That number is 950 plus between 2022 and 2024, which is it's more than tripled. Now we have 34 per 100,000. What do you think happened?
Like I said, the vast amount of people. It's not just rape. I mean, all crimes. And do you know why it's all crimes? Because there's a whole shitload ton of more people. Of course they're going to commit crimes.
No. But that's per capita. Do you understand? Do you understand per capita? Do you understand per capita?
Please. Of course I do. Please let me.
Okay, then what's your point? What's your point?
Yeah, well, I was getting there.
We're talking per capita numbers, so saying there's more people. So yes, if there was one crime per 100,000 people and you've tripled the amount of people,
right?
And the per capita is still 1 per 100,000, you've tripled the amount of crimes, but the per capita is still the same. We're talking about more than triple per capita.
Right, yeah, I understand what you're saying, right?
Okay, but, so then the population increase isn't a response. That's not an answer.
Of course it is, Rob. Come on, Rob. You're more than that.
So explain to me how that works.
All right, I'll explain to you. You have a room, right? You have one guy who has lived in that room his whole life, and he's a little bit sneaky. He does a few little crimes, right? Then you stick 10 other people in that room, and you go, oh, well, the crime rate has quadrupled since these 10 people came into the room.
Because no, I don't think you understand per capita. One, what you're saying.
The amount of people, the crime has gone up to the amount of people that came in. Who doesn't understand what per capita means?
Apparently, you.
I kind of live here, Rob. Right,
okay.
So I'm giving you a perspective of somebody who lives here.
It means nothing. You talked about Donald Trump. You don't live here. Do you live amongst the Amish?
No.
Okay, then please don't talk about that, right? Because you don't and I do, okay? See the stupidity of saying I live here? What I'm saying, you could say the data is wrong, the data you're stating is wrong. Fine, that may be. But if we're just looking at the data and you're accepting it, a more than triple increase in sexual assaults against women per capita, you saying, but that's because we've increased the population. So first off, if that's true, then we would expect the population of Ireland is tripled?
No, well, also it's a different people. Like I said, it's immigration from a different
Oh,
perspective.
and that was my
But,
next question.
but Rob, I did say that. I
Please,
did say that
please,
before you interrupted me
please,
and before you allowed me to land
please.
my thing, right? Okay,
I'm
okay.
certain.
Tell you what, Rob. Let's go out and just kill all the illegal immigrants.
Well,
Send them all back. Kill them all. Come on, dude.
that seems to be a straw man of my position and something no one said. Look, I understand. I understand. Like I've given you plenty of time. I've given you plenty of time to talk. I think I should be allowed to respond to my own channel. That seems to be reasonable.
Sure. I
Okay.
apologize.
So
Go
first
ahead.
off, your misunderstanding and misapplication when you said that's a myth, and then you said, well, of course there's some of that, but I mean, come
Oh,
on.
I never
And when
said that was a myth.
would you please? Would
You
you
put
please?
words in my mouth.
All right. Then I'll respond then. If I'm not going to be allowed to talk. Yes, he said that that's not true, that that's the mainstream media showing this. That's not what's occurring. And the people that want to cover it up by saying, well, it's just because we've brought in more people. One, just because you bring in more people would also increase the population number, which means that even if there were more crimes, that wouldn't respond to the per capita numbers over tripling. Second, the implication he's trying to make is, well, that's because if you have a room with one person in it, a 10 by 10 room, and they're not really committing crime, then all of a sudden you pack 100 people in there. Yeah, you expect even the per capita numbers to grow in because people are suffocated. I don't think that's the case in Ireland. Are they living on top of each other? Is the population per square mile so untenable that people are forced to commit these sort of crimes? I don't think that. Third, if his argument's true, then we would expect to see that you would have an uptick in Irish gentlemen who were born in Ireland and go back for generations. Their rates of these crimes would be increasing. Turns out that's not the case. So what he's trying to do is have his cake and eat it as well. When he's like, oh, no. I admit that part of it's because they're coming from other cultures. He knows that that's what's responsible for almost all of these upticks in these sort of assaults. It's not because we brought in more people. If they would have brought up all those people and they were from Japan, I don't think you would have seen these rates increase. It's because of the type of people that they're bringing in. That's what's going on. You know? And to later backtrack when I'm pointing out sort of the absurd position, it's like, no. What do you mean? Because there's more people there, that's more. And then you just filibuster and talk over me. I don't have time of day for it on my show, so see you later. I don't care. So, all right. Mangozi, thanks for the $10 over on Rumble. Says, watching Rob do a breakdown at 2x speed must be what Neo felt when learning Kung Fu. Man, I missed that first Matrix movie. I didn't even watch the fourth. I really didn't. It looked that bad. And then the coup de grace is, far right-wing crap. How would you know? You wouldn't even leave me get my point out. You wouldn't even listen. I was trying to have a conversation with you, and you just kept filibustering, which is absurd. I sit there and let you talk at great length on my own channel. You just kept filibustering. Why would you do that? Now, if you'd like to call back in, and I'll give you a chance, just sit there and listen to me and then you can respond, I'm fine with that. But I'm not going to sit here and listen to you just filibuster. It's no good for me. It's no good for you. It's no good for the audience. Let me finish what I'm saying and then respond. I don't understand what's difficult about that proposition. You're like, yeah, okay. And then 10 seconds in, you immediately start interrupting again. So if you want to call back in, we could finish the discussion. Otherwise, stop bitching in the chat. All right, you ready to listen?
Sure.
And then I'll give you a chance. All right, so I think you heard what I said. The fact that you said, no, I don't know if you used the word myth, that's what you were implying, that this was over-exaggerated because you just see about it on the press. But then when I show the numbers show a more than tripling, and your response is, that's because we brought in more people, and it's like if we put 10 people in a room, That would only make sense under the following cases. One, that the proportion of these assaults were in equal parts Irishmen committing more because they're so boxed in, and because of these immigrants that we brought in. Turns out the data, to the extent that it's shown, shows the exact opposite. That actually almost all of this uptick is because of the type of people that are being brought in. Also, it doesn't explain, I don't think that the sort of like population per square mile is to the point where it's like Mogadishu or India or something, where it's like people living on top of each other. I don't believe that's the case in the majority of Ireland. So for me, it seems obvious, as you, even as you're talking over me, try to backtrack and say it's because of the type of people that we're bringing in. Yes, that's exactly the point. They have mass migrated people from different cultures that don't give a shit about the laws of civilized society, and it's making things worse. So on one hand, you could say that what can we do personally for personal responsibility? That's something obviously worth asking, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't also say this has been foisted on people in country after country of forcing mass amounts of people to commit heinous crimes and are drained on the system because they see some sort of benefit, and we should push back on that. That's
Right.
the cue now. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the whole reason of why I came up, was to bring this point forward. Nothing about immigrants and all that. That isn't the only issues in the world. There's plenty of issues. It's the point is that we have allowed the world to get like this. Yeah, back in the 40s and 50s, we could live like this and not play a bigger role in politics and the affairs of the world. But now we must take responsibility for our actions. We must play a bigger role. We must make sure that the things that we can stop, we stop them. I'm trying to be very diplomatic with you here, but it's kind of difficult.
Well, let me give you let me just ask for an example. So, do you acknowledge that the immigration thing is a huge problem, particularly in Europe?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay, so what are you personally doing to stop it?
What I'm personally doing to stop it is not an awful lot. Like I feel kind of helpless, but I do back the political figures that I feel should be in power. I back people who I think are talking a lot of sense. I'm openly against people who I think are causing the issues and causing problems, including YouTubers.
What do you like? Who? What YouTubers causing the problem?
Well, I'm involved in a hell of a lot of communities.
Is there anyone we might know?
I don't think anybody who's far, whichever wing, the people who are far right wing, the people who are far left wing, right?
So give me an example. Okay, so far left wing would be people that are like bring in more of these people.
Yes.
What? So far right wing,
far,
the ones
far
that are
right wing is kill everybody. That
who's saying
isn't
that? Who's saying that? On YouTube? That's an argument on YouTube.
Well, not in so many words, and not necessarily just on YouTube, but it is a huge sentiment among far right wingers.
I don't believe you. I think that there might be people that believe that, but I don't think that that's a majoritarian opinion. I think the far more common opinion would be kick all these people out, send them home. I don't think there's many people advocating for kill them all on the streets.
No, not that. That was an exaggeration.
Okay, let's get specific. So you think it's a problem that people that are like, it's time for these people to go home. We need to deport them. That's what you're saying is a problem.
No, I don't think that's a problem.
Okay,
I don't think.
Wait a minute. This is what. No, wait. Just hear me out here. You're like, the problem is all these far Rikers that are suggesting killing all brown people. And when I'm like, okay, I'm sure there's a handful of those, but that doesn't seem to be a big problem. And you're like, yeah, I agree. And I'm like, the more common position would be to kick all these people out. And you're like, I agree. And I say, okay, so you have a problem with that. And you're like, no. So who is the right winger you have a problem with? A couple of ingrates that are suggesting killing people? Okay, we all agree those people suck. They have no political power. I don't think they have almost any influence whatsoever. As far as people suggesting let's deport all of the immigrants that are a net drain on us, yeah, that's certainly like your Restore Britain party type people. Yeah, I lump me in that camp. But if you're saying that's not a problem, I don't know who on the right wing you're saying. Like, there's no political movement at this point that's further right than like Restore Britain. Do you have a problem with Restore Britain?
I don't know much about them. I'm not British, or
Well,
do I live in Britain? It's like me asking you about Canada. You know what I
well,
mean?
that's fair. I know a little about Canada, but fair enough.
I
What
know a little about
do
England.
you? The equivalent would be a party in Ireland that says deport all of these people. Would you have a problem with that?
Yeah, as I said, anything too far. Now, I don't see a problem with right wing or left wing. I see a problem with far left wing,
But the
far
question
right
is,
wing.
how do you define far right? That's the question. If the position of
Far right, far right.
deport all, is this a far right position? Deport every immigrant that has committed any crime or is a net drain on our society. Does that make me far right if I embrace that?
No, I think that makes you right.
Okay,
I don't think it
that's
makes
the
you far right.
overwhelmingly. What if someone says deport any of these immigrants that came in as refugees?
Yeah, that's far right.
What's wrong with that position?
Because well, put yourself in their position. They're refugees. They're fleeing war. They're fleeing whatever. Most probably death if they stay. So I think there should be an allowances for legal refugees.
Wait a minute. You think that the people in Ireland right now that are refugees are fleeing death?
Uh, um, some of them, I guess, the legal ones. The illegal immigrants aren't. Well, they could be as well. I mean, you don't know where. That's the point. You don't know where they're coming from. They're doing it illegally.
What? How many countries do you think, if you're fleeing, you had to get through to get to Ireland?
I think it's 4 or 5, in fact.
Okay, if I'm fleeing for my
Yeah,
life
that's a
and I
good
went
point.
through 4 or 5
I brought this
safe,
point up myself. Yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
so
they should have stayed in the next country over. I mean, a lot of times they're leaving family behind. They're leaving wives and kids behind.
right.
Could you do that? Could you flee a country and leave your wife and kid behind if it's that bad? Of
This is
course not.
yes, that's exactly my argument. So we're being lied. We're being told these are people that got to the United States or the United Kingdom or France or to Ireland or any of these other countries that are fleeing for their lives. And yet we could see a bunch of countries that they went through. It turns out, and it's not a lot of women or children, it's almost all working age men. It seems like these are economic migrants, not refugees. And
Right,
so
right.
at what point do you say, hey, you all have to go back? And for you to say, well, no, because they're fleeing for their lives, some of them. No, I'm sorry. At some point when the system's been overwhelmed and abused as such, to say, well, maybe there's a handful, a dozen or so that actually were refugees and somehow for crazy reasons ended up in Ireland, like, that's such a small number that I think that the more prudent position is just to be like, y'all gotta go.
Yeah, no, but it is possible to be both, right? It is possible to say, well, I've got to leave this country because I'm going to die if I stay. But you know what? Like, there's 5 countries. Will I just settle in the next one? Wait a second. I can go to fucking rich Ireland or rich England. I
So
might
get them
get
out,
happy
right?
there,
They're
right? So
coming
why
into these
wouldn't they?
countries. They come
So,
into these
so
countries, and then what happens is they get overwhelming. They sort of balkanize and then push for their cultural and political opinions, and they end up reshaping these countries.
that's what. Yeah.
London, for example, right, or in places like in the United States, like Minneapolis, we can see that they're taking over the local communities. London's the capital of the United Kingdom, and that's what's happening all throughout Europe in the Western world. So at some point, to be like, well, there's a problem with the far left that wants that to occur, and the far right that says, no, you got to go home. And then when asking, like, well, what specifically is wrong with saying you got to go home? And then you're like, well, because that would be cruel because they're fleeing for their lives. But then you give your own rationale immediately. But actually, it's why would you leave your women and children if you're fleeing for your life? And why did you go through a bunch of countries where you would have been safe? It's almost like you're here for economic reasons. Yes, that's the point. And it's being intentionally done by people to change the makeup of these countries and have compliant, dependable citizenry. That's what's going on. So I don't think it's a condemnable position at all to say, time to go home. Go back to your countries. Go back to your women and children. Make your countries better. Stop fleeing into our countries and demanding special protections for you. Especially when we see crime numbers going up, we see the drain on the economy, we see the massive rapid change of culture. The whole point I'm trying to make is when you say it's all about what we need to do is personally, what are we doing to make things better? And, I don't disagree with that message and I sympathize that I too need to be doing more. But when I ask you what you're doing, you're basically like, nothing. So
Yeah,
you understand how the message comes across.
well, that's a little unfair, Rob.
Well, that's what you said about this
No,
specific problem.
that's what you're saying. I said again. You're putting words in my mouth.
Okay,
Dude.
let me.
That's not what I said. But there's so many things you put forward that I'm trying to make a list, so I keep remembering to go back to the points that you keep splurting out and going to the next one and the next one. Give me a chance to answer each point one on one, please. All right. Just give me that chance, or just kick me off, one or the other. All right.
I mean, I think you've had almost equal time as me to talk, and I let you talk unfettered. I'll just say this real quick. You didn't say nothing. You paused and said, not much. I guess I support the candidates that are trying to do something about it. Then when we started talking about the candidates that want to kick them out, you were like, I don't like them. I think they're the problem. That's where we're at thus far.
Right.
About
There's so
what
much,
you,
there's so much
do you
here.
disagree? That's what you've said you've
There's-
done.
There's so much to unravel here, right? Number one, you said, well, what are you doing? I'm doing a fucking shit ton, but maybe not in the immigration section, right? Maybe that's not where my energy is being spent, right? So not a lot. But in other sections, for example, I've planted over 200 fucking trees. Now you may laugh at that and say, well, that's fucking nothing. Oh, big deal. But that's a big deal to me, right? So I'm putting my focus on other sections, not just fucking immigration. And when I see people saying, send all immigrants home, I think that's far right. I don't think that's right. All right, because on the right they'll say kick the illegal immigrants and like you said, the criminals and them, kick them off. Yeah, sure, of course, why not? And another point is that we probably agree on. I don't think they should have come in the first place. I think if you're taking all these men of fighting age away from the country, well, who's going to fight their tyrannical governments and their bullshit over there? There's nobody left to fight it. There's not going to be an uprising. There's going to be no civil wars that tend to fix these issues, right? So what they're doing by allowing all these men of fighting age to come over to these countries is they're diluting the culture that's already there, which is my biggest problem with it, and also you're taking away the solution to these tyrannical governments over there. Right, you need to leave them there and help them if you want. Face the wrongdoings like Saddam Hussein, like Iran. They killed what 40,000 of their own protesters. What the like what? You know what I mean? Right? So the problem is over there. And a lot of times when you bring these people over here, they kind of, I hate to say this, and I will defend it, is they bring a lot of the problems with them.
Okay, here's what I heard. Let's go step by step through this. You planted trees, good for you. We used to do that in high school as well. When
Right.
the invaders are scared and they burn down your beautiful oak door for fire, eventually they'll come for your trees as well. I think people are more important than trees. I definitely think, by the way, the groups that plant the most trees are actually the people that use wood and lumber for projects. They plant huge amounts of trees. I think it sounds like you're really into a lot of the doom and gloom climate change stuff that we just haven't seen come to fruition. But I won't shit on someone who's trying to help out in real way with environmental stuff. That's good. I would suggest though that when we're talking about specific problems with society, when it comes to things like what our leaders are foisting upon us, that we may want to collectively sort of push back on cultural. I don't know that planting trees is going to help on that specific thing, but fair enough. That's what you decided to do. Secondly, you continually contradict yourself. You give a bunch of reasons why these people, it's harmful that are here. It's harmful for their own countries. It's harmful for the countries they're coming to. Totally agree. That's why they should, please control yourself. That's why they should be removed, right? But then you say the problem you have is we should only remove the illegal ones. So let me get this straight. You're basically conceding that there is a movement from people in positions of power that allow these people to come into these countries that are a disaster. So the government of Ireland or the United Kingdom or the United States puts a rubber stamp and says, legal. And then you're like, oh, they're terrible. They're doing bad things here. And it means that they're not going to help their country. But as long as our government said they were legal, then we can't deport them. That's your argument?
Well, sorry. No, it's not my argument. My argument is that you can't just send everybody who's a certain ethnicity back to their country for just because there's too many, because of whatever reasons you have, right? There's people coming over, economic illegal immigrants, It should not be allowed. I agree with that. It shouldn't be
Okay, but
allowed.
they're legal. You agree with that? That they are currently legal.
No, they're not current. They're illegal immigrants. They're
No,
illegal.
that's not
It's in the
true.
name, Rob.
That is not true. Many of the
It's in
people
the
that are
name.
many of the people that are, quote, in your words, economic migrants, actually are people that came over legally as refugees.
No, but right. I see where you're coming with that. Yeah, but are they legit refugees? You know what I mean? Like,
No, but that's a different question than legal. You said only kick out the illegal ones.
right? Yeah, the ones who aren't really fleeing for their lives.
But that's a different question than legal. If the Irish government, for example, tomorrow says
Okay, I
everyone
can
that's
see
in the
that.
country right now is legal, would you say, oh, well, then we can't deport any of them out because the Irish government declared everyone's legal?
No, of course not.
Okay,
No.
so then the word you're looking for is not legal. The word
Right.
you're looking for is if you are a serious refugee fleeing for your life, you should be allowed to stay, but everyone else should be removed. That came here under the refugee thing. I'm not saying some guy that came from Egypt 3 generations ago and's lived in Ireland with his family. I'm not saying that.
No, I get you. And yeah, it's a bit complex, right? It's not so black and white. So you brought up a great point, right? Where they have 5 other countries they could have settled in before they got to England and Ireland, right? So even if they are legal or illegal or whatever, or really fleeing their lives, they did extra, right, to get to a country where they think they're going to have a better life. Little do they know about the weather.
All right.
And honestly, a lot of them over here in Dublin are living in tents on the street.
All
There's no
right.
life for anybody.
Well, look, I got to let you go. I think, ultimately, I think we as individuals should try to do better. The point I'm trying to make
Yeah.
with a channel like mine is I think that it's worth pushing back and showing the abuses that we see from these governments and pushing back on them,
Yeah.
and, I don't know.
I
I don't
agree
think
with
that
that.
planting trees is all well and good, but I think the people that see how these programs have been exploited, it's not going to be a simple, let's go person for person. They need to go back. Goodbye. That's the answer. So I'll give you the final word.
Yeah, no, Rob, I've been listening to you for a while, and I do enjoy your channel. I
Thanks.
do find you a very intellectual person, and somebody that I would listen to. You know what I mean? To base my thoughts against, right? So that's kind of something that I wish we had time to do this time, but maybe another time.
Well, I do the call and show a lot, so call in again. I'd be happy to talk to you. So
All right. Thanks very much for having me, Rob. All
take
right.
it easy. All right. Super chat. Thank you. Bad Cramps says, hell yeah, bro. Everyone pour one out today. Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day, everyone. Remember to get those super chats in. All right, we got about 45 minutes left. I'm going to go with the Renaman, then Mr. then Zach G, because I think Renaman was on early and then it was having connection issues or something. So we're going to go in that order. You all get your super chats in. All right, let's go. Renaman, what's happening, man?
What's up, Rod?
Doing good. How's it going today? Happy
Doing
Memorial
good,
Day.
man. Happy Memorial Day.
Yeah.
So, golly, hold on for a second. My mic is like really, really loud in my ear. Let's see if that works. Nope. All right. Better. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So I've been following politics, immigration since 84. Okay. Gives you an idea of how old I am. This shit has been going on for so long. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, you're a Republican. It's not going to be solved. And the reason why it's not going to be solved, just kind of in similarity to what you're saying, we don't give a fuck. We don't give a fuck. And when I say we, I mean the American people. There are some right now who are parroting the whole, expel them all, get them all out of here. That shit was going on in 88. That was going on in 92, 96, so forth and so on. I remember when the great Obama came out. Okay, little story. Worked in a place where there was some illegals there, and they were all crossing their fingers, hoping that the big, great black hope would sign a legislation of amnesty. And he became known as what?
Obama? What he became? What, deporter in chief? Is that the word you're looking for?
Yeah, that was the word. That's what he was called during that time. And these guys were all hoping and praying that he was going to throw out amnesty like Reagan did. Never happened. Now, again, it's not going to get solved. Nobody wants to do it. And when I mean nobody wants to do it, I'm talking 85% of the population. Because 35% of the quote unquote Republicans, conservative stuff like that, they're working, they're doing their job. You know, they don't have time to deal with this. You have the ones who actually care about it are, especially in my generation, were the Rush Limbaugh type of listeners. You know, those guys, that's all they ever cared about, along with other things. But that was a huge talking point. In this day and age, with Trump, everybody who actually listened and followed him throughout his entire career knew he was an entertainer, knew he was full of shit, and knew he was a New Yorker. And New Yorkers do what New Yorkers do. Okay? They say and they do what they have to get ahead. And Trump was no different. So any of these other stupid bullshit people out there who actually took the time to actually try and believe what this man said in his speeches and stuff like that didn't take him. I mean, we didn't take it seriously.
Who'd you vote for?
Huh?
Who'd you vote for?
Oh, I voted for Trump.
Okay.
I'm not a non-supporter of Trump, but I also know this was never something that he himself could do by himself.
Mm-hmm.
And following politics, if you follow politics as long as I have, you know, you have to have Congress in order to be able to enact a lot of what the president wants to do, right?
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. So here's the thing. It may be the fact that the American people, or in fact the people of the Western world, do not have the will to do. And that's entirely possible. For me, the big black pill moment was the original Rotterdam investigations in the United Kingdom. If I was to tell people like circa Winston Churchill, like, hey, check this out. Eventually, you're going to import a bunch of people from your country of a different culture and religion, and they are going to mass assault your children, hundreds of thousands of them, in the most heinous ways that you can imagine. And you know what you people are going to do? You want to know what the British people are going to do? You guys are going to rise up and in unison shout your anger against Tommy Robinson, one of the dudes that was pointing it out. You guys will be real pissed at him, but no politician or police officer that knew this was occurring and covered up will ever be held to account. I would have said, you're fucking nuts. No way. That's exactly what's happened. Now, the United States people are somewhat different, but are they much different? And I don't know what it'll take as a wake-up call. I refuse to give up, though, and just throw up my hands and say, well, that's it. We're too weak to ever do anything. So I'm still pushing for sort of political and cultural change that I think goes in the right direction. I agree with you that if you really looked into Trump and thought about it, it's not that Trump's a bet. I don't even think that it's necessarily he's a showman. I just don't think he thought it through, right? I think that Trump was like, oh, yeah, I give a shit about the American working class people. Sure. And then when he hears, like, probably in his, like, his business, like, friends or whatever, probably like, Trump, man, dude, do you know how many people worked in your fucking crew that were illegals? Like, building, Trump Tower and shit, you know how many? Right? And Trump's like, oh, yeah, but those are good people. I didn't mean those dudes. I meant like these welfare bums and the criminals and shit. That's who I meant. And so he's not going to say that. Like when he's running, he's just like, fuck the illegals. They're sending their worst, And then when he's like, well, I'm at least giving you something. And the way I look at it is this, like Trump, this is why I say the greatest thing of Trump, like, did he drain the swamp in his first term? No. That's why I didn't suggest him. He wasn't. I would have went with DeSantis or even Vivek before Trump. And as far as the primary went, Vivek seems to be a bust, but that's a different question. Nonetheless, like, because I was like, look, I already saw what you could do. You didn't do a lot draining the swamp, which was sort of my biggest issue. With the border, he tried, I guess. He tried with the wall, and he's stymied by his own party, and especially the Democrats. But it's like, okay, whatever. Anyways, he gets back in there again, and it's like, I wasn't expecting that we would all of a sudden we were going to round up every illegal. I knew that wasn't the case. I would have liked to have seen him done more on the things I talked about at the beginning of this show, like debanking illegals, going after the people that intentionally employ, but he's done some of that. You know, the Supreme Court case that just said truck driver companies could be held civilly liable, that's a good direction. The H-1Bs, the amount of new ones for people not in the country, it's down like 80%. That's going in the right direction. Self-deportations are up. That's good. The border's secured. That's good. But it's nowhere near far enough. But the number one thing about Trump is the Overton window switching, where people like me and you could at least have this conversation online, whereas before, even if people like me and you would have thought this, most people kept it to themselves because you'd be called a racist. And oh my gosh, that's the worst thing that could ever happen to you, to be called a racist. Can you imagine? So now it's like you can have people that are, go ahead.
I like I said, I've been online debating this stuff with, again, when it was, kind of like, X, but on different forums and stuff like that. So, I mean, yeah, you would be called a racist. I've been called a racist I don't know how many times, but at the same time, if you allow that to feed into you, and react accordingly, you fed them more. But if and you're a great example, as well as some of the other ones on there, to where if you actually stay on topic and reiterate on topic what they're going to do, that whole argument does fall flat on its face individually.
Well, I think though, look, I definitely think that it is now more mainstream for people to be able to voice these opinions, not just in the United States.
Well, that's just because the internet's gotten so broad. And we have applications like this.
But even still, right? I don't think that you could make these arguments politically, and you couldn't make them in polite society. I don't know what you do, and I'm not saying this as an insult. In fact, I say it as a compliment. But probably fuckhead regular dudes like me and you, we say whatever the fuck we want. We're hanging out with our boys. Fuck you. I don't care, right?
Oh, yeah.
But if you're some businessman, right, you ain't saying that shit. No, I can't say that shit.
Now,
that's the death knell. Or if you're a politician, you can't say that shit. Now it's like you can. You can say that, and so
there's still not a lot of large businessmen out there who are actually saying this in open society. They're really not.
Well, that's because most of them like the system. They like the cheap labor. That's a big part of it.
It's not that they like or dislike the system. It's just they still have that sense of proprietary that they have to be careful what they say, because they're a reflection upon whatever company that they're working for. And they don't want to lose their job.
Yes,
and you still have companies out there who are like that, who will, pull you aside and be like, no.
You're certainly right. Like the HR department, we have a long way to go on that, but the battle's definitely been pushed at least somewhat to the right on this. And I think that like I don't think he could have had an Elon Musk character coming out and saying the shit he's saying a lot about immigration and shit if Donald Trump hadn't won in 2016.
I think so.
I don't think he would have.
I honestly think that is a different type of situation, because Elon Musk has got fuck you money. But he
wouldn't have done it.
Went out. Yeah, he would have. He would have. If
he would have never bought X if Trump hadn't won in 2016. You could draw a straight line. Never would.
You think so?
Yeah. Never would have bought it, right? Trump being elected allowed so much of the conversation, including mainstream politicians, to fight back in the culture war with trans shit. And the trans shit's definitely what got Elon, because of his own kid being trans, is definitely what got Elon fucking in the fight. That's what it is.
I'll concede with you on that.
But yeah, I mean, look, it's not perfect. It may never. And my thing is this, right? I don't know if you're Christian or not, but regardless, what I always say is, if you're Christian, you know the end. You win in the end, right? Like you go to the kingdom of heaven if you're a good Christian. Even if not, here's the deal. Everyone thinks that like life's like a book or a video game or some shit, and like the good guys will win in the end. Yeah, that's not true. And history's replete with examples of it's the powerful guy that wins, not the good guy. That's just the way it is. So
that's what they say. The winners always write the history.
Well, yeah, but even if you take like a step back, right? It's not that they won because they're morally more virtuous. I don't think that when Genghis Khan's like, ripping through Asia, I don't think it was like, well, he was just more moral than all of his opponents. He was stronger. They trained harder.
But at the same time, I don't think anybody was out there questioning whether what he was doing was moral or not.
Well, they weren't at the time, of course.
That wasn't a concept for them to actually even conceive.
But you would imagine this. Imagine that there are people in these villages like, well, we're good people. We won't lose. Yeah, you may lose. right? You may. Just thinking to yourself, we're on the right side, so therefore we'll win. That's bullshit fiction thinking.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
not the way the real world works.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so there are people that just think like, well, we're guaranteed to win. No, maybe not. Maybe this is it. Maybe the United States has peaked and it's all downhill. A slow, gradual decline. Could be.
Nah.
Maybe white people within 100 years will be persecuted the world over, will be minorities the world over, and will be attacked for the sins of their forefathers. That could be. I don't know. All I know is I'm going to keep pushing forward when it comes to cultural and politics, right? In order to get outcomes that I think that are best. And I'm not going to blackpill. I'm not going to be like, I'm not saying that's what you're doing, but I'm just saying in general, there are people that are like, oh, that's it. We've crossed this threshold. For example, from the outside perspective, like when I could look at the United Kingdom, it's like, dude, they jail like 125,000 people a year for posts on Facebook. Meanwhile, we had these grooming gangs that were allowed to go for 20, 30 years. Like that seems that seems to be beyond the point of return. And yet there are British people like, Restore that are like, fuck that. We're fighting for our country. And they're good. God bless them. I'm glad they're doing it. So, no, I take your point. I think that the expectations of like that Trump was going to do all of this or that he would even be capable of doing it all on his own without Congress, it's just not feasible. He could still do better. There's still criticism to be had of Trump. And in order, we need to move the ball further in that direction, which I think that Trump was a key stepping stone in that. I don't think Trump's perfect. I think the people that look at Trump like he's like the greatest man in the world, whatever he says go, are insane. But the people that think that like he's this super evil, he's sold out, he's really paid by Benjamin Netanyahu, I think that's an insane position as well. So
I agree with you. I think he, like I said, he is more of a catalyst than he is, the final resolution. Of what I mean, and I think that was the fallacy of a lot of people who, jumped on that bandwagon. Was they thought, they expected the bull in the China room, which they got, but they wanted that entire China room destroyed. And all he did was just went in there and just roamed around and knocked a few things down.
Yeah, I agree.
Type of thing,
Well, and
now that was his first term. That was his first term. Now the second term, when he came back and he realized he fucked up, choosing a lot of his, advisors and stuff like that in his first term. And he went ahead and changed that entire scope to, a major degree. I think he has been a little bit more effective in what he is wanting to achieve.
Well, I think that I'll give you the final word after this, but I think that one of the things, I think the bar was so low for Trump. Like all these people, I live in rural Pennsylvania. It's like my parents never voted in their election once in their life. Never voted in an election. They didn't give a shit. Everyone I know was like that. They're fucking, it's a poor neighborhood, man. Like the county I grew up in is fucking really poor. Drugs started to become a problem. There were like factories that were here, like the old kilns and shit. They all went out. The last thing that was really holding my town afloat was this company, Owens, Illinois. They made glass bottles for like beer bottles. It went out of business. So people are fucked. Like it's real desperate times, And along comes Trump. And regardless of what anyone thinks of him, he was at least saying to these people, hey, you're real people. Like we give a shit. You're getting fucked over. And the bar was so low because I feel like no one at the national level was ever paying heed to these sort of people that they'd crawl over broken glass for Trump. And Trump was saying good things and was charismatic. Don't get me wrong, that's all true. But a lot of it was just no one spoke to these people at all. Oh, yeah. And so now I think one of the things that happens is if you're in that position and finally you get this guy, you're like, finally, he's president, we did it. And then when you see it's like, oh, he isn't radically shaking everything up. It's kind of like, well, let's make some incremental gains. That is probably deflating. That you're like, well, shit. We thought we finally got our guy. We see how their guys did it, right? We see what Obama did. Fuck it, target conservatives with the IRS. We're going to use our position to influence every area of culture. That's what we want. We want our guy to come in and do that the opposite way. Yes, we're going to take over schools. We're going to send out letters that say we're going to hold back your Title IX funding unless you do this, this, and this like Obama did. We're going to infiltrate. Our IRS will go after shitbag left-wingers. How about that? And it just didn't happen. And it was just more of like we're steadily moving things in the right direction. We tried to build a wall, but our own party and others sabotaged it and, blah, blah, blah. And so I think that's where a lot of it is. There's an unrealistic expectation. One, because Trump's bullshittery. He's a salesman, the way he's promising shit. But also because people are so desperate You know, if you're some dude that lives where I am and you saw your grandfather struggling and now your dad struggling and now you struggling, you're desperate. You're like, I want someone to come along that gives a shit. You know, I've not seen that in my entire life. And so when the guy comes along and it turns out like, yeah, he can't really do it, not in his own, he could move things slightly in a better direction. You might say, screw it, screw this guy. Let's start from scratch. I don't like it. Start over. But there's not going to be this magic person. We've got where we're at because of 50 plus years of disastrous decisions that didn't give a shit about the average blue collar worker in this country. They did not give a shit. They didn't care, right? And so to think that one guy's going to come along and be like, there, it's done. It's just, it's not possible. And that doesn't mean Trump couldn't have done better. I'm not suggesting that. But could someone who have done better got elected? I don't know. So I'll give you the final word, though.
To answer your question, no. And that was evident in 88 when Ross Perot, Bush, and Clinton ran. Okay. Ross Perot was the was the Trump of that era,
Yeah.
you know,
Quirky billionaire. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, he self-financed, he did everything, and he pulled a lot of votes from Bush. And that's what, and that answers your question. No, it's not. Okay. Because, you know, while Ross was, you know, exactly what we needed and exactly what we wanted. Yeah. I voted for him. You thank me for giving you Clinton regardless. But nonetheless, a lot of other people did too. And Trump is the second incarnation, I think, as far as what he said. I mean, because if you go back and you look at Ross, you know, they parroted the same type of things. And Ross kind of brought into fruition the whole Tea Party thing, you know, and it comes in waves. It does. I mean, there are incremental achievements that happen. I mean, there's a reason why it's called conservative and not, you know, repression. Okay. We're conserving what we have. It doesn't mean that we're not moving forward. It's just we're conserving what we have. And it's I think with, you know, and again, I'm not a black pillar by far. I mean, I triumphed Trump winning both times. And I'm glad that he won this time, and he's done a lot of things that I agree with. And, you know, I hold that position strongly because, again, like you said, there's nobody else out there that will actually do it. There's nobody out there who has the ability to do what he does. And this time right now, and I'm, you know, everybody wants to argue as far as, you know, Iran was bad and blah, 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 and all these other things, you know, not enough deportations. You know, when you have so much going against you, you can only do what you can do. And he's doing what he can do.
Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. Well, hey, it was a pleasure. Hopefully I'll talk to you again some other day.
Of course. You still owe me a chess match.
What's your ranking?
Really?
I'll play. I know it doesn't matter. I'm just curious.
Right now, I'm sitting at 1582.
Yeah, you'll kick my ass. That's fine. I'll play though. I will.
Hey, I don't go by. I don't play by ranks. I really don't. I get online and I just play, you know, free willy nilly. But if I actually get on my rank account, yeah, I'm 1582.
All right, man. Hey, good to hear from you. We'll talk soon, man.
Good. Have a good one, man.
Yep. All right, I gotta go to the restroom. I'm gonna give you the notorious chair. Jabroni Big Time $5 says if you're not doing an ism or a phobic, it means you're not doing it right. Let's talk about isms. Yeah, $60. That's all we got in YouTube today. Goodness gracious. I'll be right back. Night Shift's gonna just talk mad shit on you all. I gotta go to the restroom. I'll be right back. All right. I hate Night Shift Rob too. He's the worst. Like I'll go down and do shit today, and then I'll come on here tonight, and it'll be night shift for Rob instead of this charming fellow you have in front of me. And night shift for Rob's gonna be like, day shift sucks. What a bunch of a-holes. And I'll be like, yeah, he has a point. All right, we got Mr. Zach, and then Jack. Let's get to it. Mister, what's happening?
Hey, how's it going? I'll try and be as quick as I can be because I want to let other people come up. Yeah, so just two things really quick. As far as the Iran stuff, you know, I look at these lies, right? And this is my issue with some of these, you know, these podcasters or whatever, because they leave out the whole rhino narrative, and I think that's where they're flawed in their logic. Like, first it was, oh, there's no dust, right? And it's like, okay, well, if that's the case, then that means Iran has to be lying too, because they're saying, hey, we're not giving you the dust, right? Aside from the IAEA, Atomic Energy Alliance or whatever it's called, and them breaking the international agreements, which they don't seem to care about either. The second lie, right, is Trump said last week, Netanyahu will do what I tell him to do, right? But you don't hear about that on Dave Smith's podcast or Nick Fuentes' podcast.
Well, they'll just
Nothing
say Trump lied. His actions show that stuff. But yeah, he did say that.
Right.
And by the way, now we'll see. It's still early. But there were reports that Netanyahu is furious. That Trump's basically like, nope, we're having a resolution to this soon. Now, if that's the case, then what's the explanation? They won't say, oh, this shows that Trump had his own motivations. They'll say, oh, it just shows that he was, he's probably still a stooge, but see, it's a disaster anyways. So, yeah, there's not a lot of, and this is what I've, and I don't know if you've seen me recently argue with some of this, but I was like, I'm trying to get a feel for what they're suggesting. So is it that our foreign policy has been dominated by Israel, like in both of the parties? Like we go back to Clinton, W. Bush, Obama, right. Trump, Biden, Trump. When was it dominated by Israel and when was it not? And they're like, the whole time. Not every decision, but was dominated by Israeli concerns. And it's like, okay, so then when Obama and Biden are giving pallets of cash to Iran, theoretically, isn't that like antithetical to what Bibi wants, right? And they were like, half the people couldn't come up with an answer. And then the other half said what I expected them to say, which is, but that too is part of Israel's plan. You see, Israel wants them to give the United States to fund Hezbollah. That way Israel has an excuse to attack Hezbollah. And so the problem with this, of course, is then anything that ever happens is just furtherance. It's just more evidence of Israel's control. If Trump comes out tomorrow and says, we're no longer giving one more dime to Israel, fuck them, they're the worst, they've done all this shit, I guarantee that there would be people like, very shrewd of Netanyahu. Aha! See what he's done now? He's forcing his puppet, Trump, to go out and do all of this shit. That way, everyone's complacent with just how much Israel's really controlling. So there's just no evidence that could ever arise for these people. No matter what, that's Bibi. Everything even if it's directly against what Bibi wants, it's still Israel. It's still Zionism. So I don't know.
And it's funny because to the third point of that, when the negotiations began, and I kept saying in some of these pro-Israel groups, I was like, look, and I got a lot of shit for this. I was like, if they came up with a deal and the Arab neighbors agreed upon it, I think that if they got the dust, which they want, and I think it could work if the neighbors were involved, and they were like, no, it's we don't, some of like the hardcore Israel group were like, yeah, no, we don't know if that'll work. And I'm just like, well, why not at least try? And so the following weekend, the negotiations began, and it just makes me laugh because then you're going to have people on the opposite side, like the Fuentes group, that's going to be like, well, this is all bullshit. It's not good enough. It's like even after the fact.
Yeah,
but the other.
It doesn't matter. Whatever the outcome, if he ends the war tomorrow, he's a bitch. Trump chickened out again. If he keeps it going, then he's the worst. It's just people that just want to see him lose. That's it. Now that's not to
Yeah.
say, I'll be clear. I'm not saying we'll have to see what some peace deal is, and terms are one thing, results are another. Like if Iran's like,
Yeah.
we super promise you we're not going to build anything, but there's nothing in there that ensures they can't do it, then yeah, okay. But yeah, I agree with you. It's all, no matter, the result will always be anger towards Trump, no matter what. That was always the case with the left, and now there are people on the right that go right with that.
So just a quick last point, and then I'll jump off. So we have 53 Senate seats, and I really want, and this is the thing, I don't hate Fuentes, or I want like all those people on our side, but I feel like they ignore this point, and it's the establishment Republicans that we're getting rid of should be the goal, because they're the ones holding everything back, right? So we got 53 right now in the Senate, and that seems to be the main roadblock for the getting the SAVE Act passed, right? We got rid of 3 of them, and for the standing filibuster, you only need 51, and the one extra being the vice president. So in reality, we only need to swing 1 seat, and we got it. And Vance said, he's like, I'll be the tiebreaker vote. I don't care. So why are they not focused on that scenario rather than just saying, F it, we'll just burn everything to the ground?
Well,
like, we're that close to getting it done.
This is, and I said this in my review of Crowder and Fuentes. I said, it's kind of funny because no one talks about that. In fact, I could make that argument for Fuentes. Like, okay, this isn't even a referendum on Trump. It's more of a referendum on Republicans in the Senate and the House. They've done nothing. Why should I vote for them? Right? Like, that's an argument that could be made. But instead, they put it as a reflection of Trump. They're like, see what Trump's done? So for example, Fuentes say, why isn't the wall built? Why hasn't more of Trump's executive orders been enshrined in law? And it's like, well, you're pissed not at Trump, you're pissed at Congress then. Trump can't do that. He can't force them. He's tried. Look what he's doing with the SAVE Act. He's trying to force them to do shit. They just won't. And the truth is, a lot of this is held up by a handful of Republicans in the House and definitely in the Senate. Now, the truth is, all the Democrats, with the exception of maybe Fetterman on a couple issues, are going to unanimously vote against Trump no matter what he tries to do, particularly if it comes to immigration. Nope. So that means that you need, in these slim margins, and like, this is what people don't understand. We're talking about a potential blowout, like in the House or the Senate, where it's like, a blowout would be like Democrats controlled the House by like 20 something seats and control the Senate by like 2 or 3 seats. That would be considered a blowout. In the grand scheme of things, you're like, so what? In the Senate, that means 6 more Democratic senators than Republicans out of 100? That hardly seems like a blowout if you take a big step back. Now, it is
right
based on what the current politics are. But the truth that people don't want to talk about is, we're a very divided country, and like the days of like a candidate getting like 80% of the vote in a national election, those days are done. It's going to be very divided. And so the way laws and stuff are made are, can you convince your team to vote as a whole, or your party to vote as a whole? And the truth is, definitely with the Republicans, that's not the case. So all it takes is, if you only control the Senate by 2 or 3 seats, and you have 5 or 6 Republican senators that are like, no, we're not down with that agenda, then you lose. So the way you bolster that is to get aggressive, particularly in the midterms, and say, we're going to elect even more Republicans. That way, if we have some defections, we can still get the agenda passed. And instead, they want to go the opposite direction. Let's vote for more Democrats, which ensures anything like the SAVE Act won't get passed. Now we know it for sure. Okay. And under what? That magically in 2028, Groyper candidate comes? I just don't see it. And that's my question. It's like, let's say that happens. Let's say somehow a wing and a prayer that we vote, that Democrats win the midterms, which results in to be determined America first president. That all the Groypers are like, this is the guy. We're happy with this guy, whoever that guy may be. And then he gets in and he's like, okay, day one, we're building the wall. And Congress is like, no. Then what? Do we hate the new guy now and say, oh, he's not getting the wall built? He's not doing it. Oh, he didn't get the SAVE Act passed. And you're like, yeah, because the Republicans still in the House and Senate. Doesn't matter. Start over. Vote Democrat. And it's like, at what point do you say, like, it's not, perfect, you know. Oh, sorry.
This is the path. It just seems to me like this is the path of least resistance. Like it's much more painful to go down the path that they want to, rather than target a few elections and get these guys across the finish line. What do you have to lose, right? What do you have a 2028 down the road? So why not give it a shot and say, okay, we got these a-holes the hell out. Now what excuse do they have now? And then if that's the case, then fair enough, and I say, look, I was wrong. But it seems to me like that's not the case, that we just have one or two guys that we need to get the hell out, and then we're good, then we can get it through, but all right, I'll drop down.
I always appreciate it, Mr. Mister. You have a good one, man.
Yeah, you too.
All right, thanks. All right, where are those donos at? Our good friend How Long Nate gives another $10. Says still 90 pup players in chat. Like the streamer, I pay a friend to publish your browser history. Oh, thank you, Nate. Now we got to get to at least 50% of the goal today. At least we got to get to at least 50% of the goal. I didn't want to have to do it, but there's this guy. You're not going to believe what he wrote on my channel 2 days ago. 2 days ago, he wrote, $357 a day is highly unreasonable. 2 days ago. He must be a day shift viewer. Well, I think he's unreasonable, is what I think. That's all right. I'm still having fun. I hope you guys are enjoying the stream. Got another caller on, the great Zach Gelpy. What's happening, Zach? How you doing this fine day?
I'm a little under the weather. I've been dealing with food poisoning the past couple days, so I apologize if I sound like shit.
Oh shit! Well, I'm sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, there was a couple of things I wanted to talk about, but one in particular. I know a few months ago you were talking about, how the messaging with Charlie Kirk is basically gone on the wayside, and it has to do with the way the party in itself doesn't know how to message. And I can't really argue with you on that the party's inept with that. I've said in many streams that they're inept on a lot of things, and that's one of them. But I don't think it's really their fault. In this case, I think if you look at the timeline of what happened after Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens started blaming a certain group of people. Same thing with Dave Smith, and well, not so much Dave Smith. I'll give him credit on that, but a few other folks that are notable that are somehow they're considered right wing were, and they basically stole the narrative. And that's what we've been discussing all along is Candace Owens and her whole thing for basically a year, and her groupies, so to speak. I think they're mostly at fault.
Well, I think that's true, right? And I think two things to say. One, I'm no better. I fall for the shit. Like, look, I think the people that would consider themselves America First adjacent that are on my chat have largely been respectful. We disagree, but no one's been flipping out or anything like that. I still like to play my Jaysberg clip from time to time, but it's not been too bad. But I am definitely a one-person guy where one person that's disagreeing with me distracts me. So a lot of that's my fault. What I should really do, the way to deal with it is just to be like, okay, we offered the debate. That's it. You're not calling? See ya. Like, not banned, but just like, I'm not paying attention to you. And that's unfortunately what's happened. I think that let's assume that Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes and Dave Smith and Dan Blazarian and whoever else, let's all assume that their motivations are pure, that they really believe what they're saying and they really think that they're trying to help the country. Okay, even if that's the case, they are the greatest ally of the establishment Democratic Party, because what they're able to do is get inroads to people on the right that if someone on the left said, if Hassan Piker said, you know what, I think that the assassination attempt against Trump was fake, I think it was actually Israel, we'd all laugh. We'd be like, fuck you, but when it's coming from someone that has right-wing bona fides, allegedly, then we talk about it, we infight. And then the next thing you know, that becomes the story. So the story became Jimmy Kimmel, and the story became, Candace Owens and her theories. And to Nick's credit, I think Nick kind of said, look, Candace, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
But,
he did.
but, I mean, it's so ridiculous. I mean, for gosh sakes, now we have Hunter Biden doing an interview with Candace Owens. If that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about, like, who this helps. Now, I understand the counter argument. It doesn't matter, right? It does not matter if it's the truth. I get that. Like, if the truth is that, immigration numbers aren't good, right? And people say, but don't say that, it'll help Democrats. Like, you're like, yeah, but if it's the truth, it's the truth. The problem is these people are just speculating, or everything they're recommending ends up being like the greatest wish list that the Democrats would have. Yes, you're right, vote Democrat. Yes, you're right. Don't support like Trump. All this stuff where you're just like, wait, what? Like, and it just, for me, I think you're right. I think we need to overcome it, and the establishment Republican Party needs to do a better job. But so do I. Like, and I try to keep the memory of Charlie alive and how serious it was, but I could do better. And part of it's just like pointing out to people, like, look, go ahead.
But what I'm getting at is, yes, it is, in my estimation, I feel certainly that Candace Owens is a left-wing plant. That's my that's my estimation of her. But
if not, she might as well be.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of those folks. Here's the thing. What conservatives need to start doing is, like I've said before, is focus on primaries in very conservative areas. We should have very conservative people.
Yep.
And that is the case, and that is not what's happening right now. We have in very conservative states people that are not necessarily representing their state. Let's put it that way. So that's for one, and two. With this, America First lobby, if you will, throw the baby out with the bathwater. They had numerous chances of recruiting people to primary these people, and they didn't do it. So now they want to just destroy the whole system. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. That's why I feel that those people are, leftists in disguise. Because they could have gone to the primary system and they didn't do it.
So
but they're worried about the general, and they're gonna try to take out the Republicans in the general. How does that make sense?
So it's even worse than that in some degree. So if I take what I've heard Nick Fuentes say, which is like, look, here's the deal. Like when he was arguing about Casey Putsch. Now Casey Putsch seemingly would be someone that America First would be behind, and it seemed that they were originally. But then he's like, Casey didn't do enough work, and I saw Nick part of his stream where he was saying this. Right? He was like, "Look, we're not going to put our hat behind someone who's sort of slapdash, not putting in the work. We need someone that didn't just decide to run, 2 months before campaign season. Someone who laid the groundwork, et cetera, et cetera." Okay, if I accept that. Nick, you didn't vote for Trump in 2024, according to your own words, because you knew how bad he'd be. So why weren't you helping lay the groundwork back then for midterms, right?
Yeah.
In 2026? Why weren't you laying the groundwork for 2 years? I don't understand it. If you're like, well, it's on this specific candidate, he didn't lay the groundwork, and now he's saying, well, that's what we're doing now. Okay, but then when he's talking to Steven Crowder, and Crowder's like, can you give me a name of like who would be a potential person? And Nick's basically like, well, it's too soon because they haven't announced their candidacy. But Nick, you're telling people right now to vote for the party that you're admitting caused the problem. So like before, if you're telling me now, you might say, wow, we're still so far out from a presidential election. Yeah, but man, you're telling me in the midterm, basically, vote Democrat. I know they caused all these problems, but trust me, there's a man out there. I can't tell you who it is, but there's a man out there that if you vote Democrat, that's really going to help this hypothetical man win the Republican primary in 2028 and go on to be president. Like, why aren't you running now? Why aren't you making inroads now? And just because if I'm attached to it, it'll hurt his chances, or the person didn't want to announce now. Well, that doesn't give me a sign of like confidence that you guys are going to have the the wherewithal to pull this out. If you're basically like, well, I don't want to announce because I'll hurt the chances. That doesn't sound like a movement with a lot of popularity or one that's like really hitting the ground running, which seems, given what we see in the 2026 election, seems to most likely be the case. Where was the ground game in 2026? I don't know. Was it really, or is this the argument? Let me see if I can steel man the argument. Nick, because I hear people, they'll say, Nick knew that this is what Trump would be. He knew it. He predicted the war in Iran. He knew. That's why he didn't vote for Trump in 2024. Okay, but then why didn't he start like endorsing people? He knew enough not to vote for Trump, but not enough to help build people up for a primary?
Yeah. I think with Nick, I think I can't say for Nick for sure. I think he's a true believer in what he says. I think some of the others are very much could be leftist plants. I don't think Nick is. I think he is actually a believer, and I think that's why he doesn't get along with all these other people that are parroting, because he sees the BS that they're saying, and
that's why they won't beat him. That's why it's easy to predict when Jake Shields and Dan Blazarian and Ian Carroll go up against Nick. Like, I think Nick truly believes what he's saying, which some of these other characters, I don't know. And Nick's way more charismatic, funny, and smarter than them. Yeah. So it's like, it's easy to predict when they're attacking him from that side that he's going to come out on top.
Right.
But deservedly so, because those other people are worse. So
yeah. But here's what I think where Nick really, where it comes down with Nick. He doesn't know actually how to build a political organization. All he knows how to do is be a contrarian. And that's really where it comes down to with him, is no matter what, even if Trump did basically 90% of what he wanted, he still wouldn't support him. And that's because his business is being a contrarian. And if you look at a lot of his followers, they're very much the same kind of mindset. They're contrarian types of folks. That's all well and good. You can be contrarian, and you can be contrarian all the way to, us serving together in the gulags if the leftists get their power. Because what people don't really understand is if the left get what they want, there won't be another election. And that's the danger of this. It's, we seem to think that elections are a game, and it's something that, we lost this time, but we'll get them next time. Eventually, and I apologize if I sound like shit, bro.
No, you're good.
But eventually, if the other side gets what they want, we won't have another election. And that's what we're actually fighting for. Is that we're fighting to keep this country what it is. And the contrarians, you can say, well, we're not getting everything we want, but you'll be supporting the very people that are going to put you in jail and put you in prison.
Well, here's the thing, right? Like, I agree with you. Here's the thing that, like, I had to learn this lesson. I had no connection to politics. I started streaming or putting videos up, and then I ran for Congress in 2019, and I got half of what I believed confirmed, but then half of what I believed it really questioned, right? Half of what I believed is it's scummy business. I didn't shake the right hands. I didn't know the right people, so I never had a chance. Didn't matter if I said the right things. It didn't matter if my message was agreed upon by most of the people in my special election. Half of it was determined. Now, granted, this was a special election, so the rules are different. But the general thesis of what people think about politics, it's not what you say, it's who you know. That's true, right? There was a lot of that I saw. And there's a lot of scummy shit that I've talked about. It's absolutely true. But I also was there's this guy, I'll say his name, I don't give a shit. Perry County Commissioner Don McClure. He's been on the show again. Now, I've gotten to know Don. Don's a true believer. Don's the type of dude that's been working for the county Republicans in his county for 40 years. Right? He's seen them come and go. This guy's a guy that's trying to help. Doesn't matter who it is. If you win and you're Republican, he's going to bat for you. Right? He's a team player. He's a good guy. You know, and I've been on stream arguing with Don where I've sort of taken the burn it all down position. Right? Fuck all these people. What has the Republican Party in Pennsylvania done for me? They lose over and over and over and over again. Where's the change? Where is it? In the PAGOP, the actual institution, no one changes leadership, no matter how embarrassing the loss. Dr. Oz, their guy, they were so excited, lost to a damn stroke victim who couldn't string words together. Again, it happened. Yeah. I watched it. Tom Wolf locked us all down. There was anger. We lost the damn governor's race to Josh Shapiro. How is there no changes? And so I was really going hard at like, fuck all these people, burn it all down, replace them all. I don't give a fuck. You know, that was sort of my take. Don has not the exact opposite, but Don's on the other side. Don, I don't think, is willing to move much. He's a slow, grind it down type guy. I think the truth lies somewhere in between me and Don. What he taught me was like, Rob, he's like, I respect you and I respect what you're trying to do, but do you understand what a ground game is? Do you understand what an election infrastructure is? It's not so simple. Donald Trump's an anomaly. Donald Trump's a billionaire. Donald Trump had worldwide recognition, right? We don't have that. When I run for Congress, I don't have that. I can't afford to be like, fuck the establishment. They all suck. Like, then I'm going to lose because a lot of those voters that I need are technically part of an establishment.
Right, and exactly.
I don't think that, like, a lot of people get that. That's why, like, and Crowder, to his credit, asked Nick this. Was like, where is your infrastructure? Where is the donors' money coming from? Where is your ground game? What's that look like? How are you going to convince, like in my state of Pennsylvania, I go to all these county Republican meetings and these events, and I see this 70-year-old lady that's running a bake sale to help the local Republicans, and she's going to work in the polling station, and she's going to get out and put up campaign signs, and she's meeting and greeting and doing all that. How's that lady become Groyper? That's my question. How's it happen? How is it that when stereotypical moderate Mitt Romney-looking motherfucker runs against Groyper candidate, that infrastructure is like, we're going to go with Groyper? I don't see it. And like when you ask this, and like there's this guy in my chat, ex-phobic, seems like a decent guy. You want to know what his response is? Well, that's up to the candidate to figure out. They'll figure it out. I mean, come on. So your plan is vote Democrat?
That goes to what I was saying. The thing is, they're contrarians. That's it. They know how to complain and they know how to, rail against whatever the popular position is of the day of the conservative side. Right now, as of right now, that is that. Most conservatives tend to support Israel, and they see it as their contrarian way to be against Israel. And there's other positions as well that they want to be contrarian of, but they don't know exactly what it takes to build the infrastructure to go against the establishment Republicans, or to even go against even more dangerous, the leftists, who are experts at building political infrastructures.
Yeah. And like, here's the thing,
and yet they just want to support. They are like, burn it down and let the leftists take over, and then we'll just have what my mom came from, this USSR. Okay. That's great. I'll save you a place in the gulag. I mean, that's what it's really going to take.
I feel like it's a bit of a shame. Now, listen, I'm just going to say this straight up. I think that Nick, if he would have worked within the system a little, I think he actually could have made inroads because he is charismatic and he does have a lot of young people, right? Yeah. And so if he would have decided, like, instead of saying vote Democrat, to be like, look, we need to like start getting involved in primaries. Of course, the Democrats are the worst. Of course, we're going to support Republicans, but we need to really get involved. Here's some key areas. Let's identify this Ohio governorship race. Let's identify that. Let's get involved. Let's talk to Republicans on the street. Let's get an organization in the ground game. How about what's going on in Florida there with James Smith? Let's do that. And some other, if they were to pick 4 or 5, like, this is how you do it. This is how you start a movement within a movement. You get incremental victories. Restore Britain is doing that, right? We're going to isolate one area. We're going to win this area. And then once we win that, then we could but
You
what you
get to
can't.
establish a beachhead, and then you go and you
Yes.
and you branch off from there. Exactly right.
And one of the things Nick does that's very good. Look, I'm not going to lie. A lot of his followers are childish assholes, but that's okay. My followers make me play whip songs all the time, so they too childish ass. But Nick puts on the suit and tie figuratively pretty well. Like when Nick wants to not be like a troll, he could sound reasonable. Like in his debate he had with Dinesh D'Souza, they're vehemently disagreeing, but Nick sounded like a guy that you're like, that's a guy that you could see speaking at CPAC, right? Like you could see that hypothetically, you know. And so, but you shoot yourself in the foot where you're like, well, vote Democrat. Like, how are you going to explain 2 years from now when that doesn't work? When you're walking into like, hey, my name's robnoerr, you know, I'm with an organization called the Groypers, you know, and we suggested voting Democrat in 2026. Now it's 2028. I'd like to talk to you about some Republican candidates we like. People are going to be like, boo, get the fuck out of here. Goodbye. We don't want to hear from you. That's what so many people are going to say. Was it worth it? I don't think so. So I think in every way, what they're suggesting, it one, furthers entrenched Democrat power, maybe if they win the 2020 election in ways that we'll never be able to overcome. Second, it's not going to radically shake up the Republican Party. Third, even if it does, it'll shake it up more towards an establishment, a Paul Ryan type figure, as opposed to whoever the hypothetical figure they want. And so for me, and then fourth, any chance that it has of this movement like working within the Republican Party, they're shooting themselves in the foot. So for me, and that's, I'll treat Nick with like, you know, I don't think he's fucking near as bad. I don't even know what to say about Candace Owens and them. If I assume that she's not, you know, a plant, okay, fine. If I assume that, like, why would you ever work with her with anything? Like, for me, it would just be, if I was in an event and they were like, yeah, you're speaking, and then Candace is speaking, my entire speech would probably be about how much Candace sucks. Like, that's probably what I would do. It's just, it's infuriating, the amount of damage that these people are doing. Nick, I think, at least, is trying to put an argument out there. I think terribly misguided, and I think that, you know, the harm as well. The hyper-focus on Israel, for me, it's just like, I don't fucking get it. But Candace
and we're kind of as a country kind of getting past that. I've noticed. I mean, to me, it's just instead of like what they're trying to do works in certain very like in certain situations. Like the left has done this before. Like I remember someone I'm friends with who's an operative in New Mexico. He said, this was like decades ago, there was a special election and the Democrat candidate who was running was like kind of a milquetoast candidate. And it was a slightly Democrat district. Well, the party didn't support that candidate, and the Republican ended up winning. But they knew, okay, so we have 2 years of, you know, this Republican being there, and now the Republicans have the majority, or you know, or something of that nature. But after 2 years, we're going to get, you know, a hardcore leftist in there, and it'll be fine. So in certain aspects that can work in very particular situations, but what they're saying, it can't happen nationally, and it just doesn't work that way. And the thing is, when Republicans or conservatives get in office, we want to revert things back to, you know, what they are, and we want more of, you know, freedoms. When the leftists win, they take freedoms away. And if we haven't noticed during, you know, Biden's administration and Obama's administration, they were very keen on putting conservatives in prison or taking away conservative organizations out through the IRS. So eventually, they're going to make it so that conservatives won't even have a voice at all, and quite honestly, might be imprisoned. That's their end goal. So I totally agree. So to make it so they will be successful, not only are you hiding your nose to spite your face, but you're actually going to be ultimately imprisoned by the very people that you're helping. It just doesn't make any sense.
Well, and I think the other thing is, like, it's, again, I'm saying the best possible motivation. I see people saying Nick's a fed, whatever. I think when it comes to an individual streamer, it is so much easier to be contrarian. It's so much easier, no matter what the outcome is, to be like, told you, told you. You know, anytime there's a problem, you're like, see, that wasn't me. I was against that problem, right? And if there's a victory, you're like, well, it'll only be temporary, right? It's easy to be that guy. And having a bunch of like, let's take Candace Owens, take Nick out of it. Candace has a big audience. Let's assume that it's not largely botted, which I don't know. How's that going to translate into politics? Like actually getting someone elected? We going to get a Candace Owens candidate? No chance. Right? It's not going
What
to
party
translate.
would they run as?
Right? Who knows? Who knows? You know. So the party of black female-led white supremacists. I don't know what it would be. You know. But it's, you know. So it's, some of it's like, there's things that are good for your show. There's things that are good for your brand. And then there's things that could actually do real change. Look, and I'll talk to you at some point about this, Zach, like behind the scenes. I know you're doing work with Maine First and stuff. Like, there are ethical questions you have to ask yourself when it comes to working for a particular candidate or a particular movement that you don't entirely agree with, right? There are ethical questions that we all must ask. Is me agreeing with this candidate 90% worth me pushing for him because his opponent I only agree with 5%? So is it worth me saying, if I put my momentum here, can I swing this election? Maybe for someone like me, it's like literally trying to swing a school board election or a local commissioner election. I'm clearly not big enough that I'm going to swing a presidential election. But what about once you start to get more influence? Like, Nick, at what point do you say, like, look, I could continue to be the contrarian, fuck it, burn it all down, and have a very little chance of actually having inroads in real politics, or I could say, I got to support some people that I'm not going to agree with 100%. Because it's incrementally in the right direction, which then gets me closer to levers of institutional power, which I can expound upon. I don't know. I mean, look at something like Turning Point USA, right? Turning Point became massively influential. I mean, in what, 10 years? You don't think there were times that Charlie
in less time, in less than 10 years. I mean, his coup de grace was obviously 24, but they were a pretty significant force even before that.
Yeah. Do you think they agreed with everything the Republican Party was doing or everything Trump did? Probably not.
Of course not. But it's different. I will say this in Nick's defense. Charlie had a different modus operandi than Nick. Charlie was a unifying force. He, as long as you were right of center, he thought of you as an ally. Yep. That's not Nick's modus operandi. He has specific positions that he has that someone needs to hold 100% in order for him to have his support. And if they don't, hit the bricks. And it's two different mindsets. And I understand, and I would actually argue that in some cases, Nick's brand of politics does fall somewhat under confrontational politics, which, as you know, I subscribe to. I understand his motivations of where he's going. Mm-hmm. The problem is, if you're just a single issue group, let's say, it's much easier to be like all or nothing. Like when I worked for the National Right to Work Committee, we just cared about right to work, right? I mean, there were other issues we cared about, but that was the main one. And if someone didn't support it, well, whether they were Republican or Democrat, didn't matter. We were going to go after them, mm-hmm. right? That's what it was, because it was a single issue, and that's all we cared about. But if you're a group or movement that has, let's say, 4 or 5 different issues, well, now you got to find, to what you're saying, if someone is agreeing with, let's say, 4 out of the 5, you have to support that person, because you're not going to get someone who supports 5 out of 5 all the time.
Right.
And it also depends on the district you're in. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of Susan Collins, but she's in fucking Maine.
Right.
So, yes, I support her in Maine, because the alternative is this Nazi guy. Like,
Mr. Plattner.
Plattner, who's an actual communist. So yeah, of course I'm going to support her over that guy there. But if Susan Collins was running in, let's say, Montana, I would have a totally different opinion of her there.
Exactly.
That's
it is like, well, Zach, I got to get going. I got to do some stuff with the sun. It's always a pleasure, though. And hopefully we talk more soon. But yeah, thank you so much for the call, man.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good one.
Take it easy, man. All right. We're going to wrap it up. 20% of the goal. I might as well get back to my job at Burger King. I still had a lot of fun. Thank you all. I do appreciate it. Any last minute donations would be amazing, but that's okay too. I had a lot of fun today. So tonight, I think I'll be doing the extravaganza here at 5:30. So I'm going to get down and hang out with my family. But if that's the case, let me double check. I'll come up with some stuff for that. Let's just text. Text the producer, see what's going on. And then tonight at 10 p.m., will be a show we do tonight. We'll be talking more about Memorial Day. Again, I hope you're having a fantastic Memorial Day. So thank you to all the brave people that fought and died for our country so that we could sit here and do all the things we do. Really appreciate it. And we'll talk about it tonight. So Kyle swam the Nile. Thanks for the $5. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Hunt Four-Way, $10 over on Rumble. Thanks. Says, I'd like an apple pie with that, Rob. I think Rumble it's close. Rumble's close to beating YouTube today. Pretty crazy. Memorial Day, never heard of it. Yeah, Canadian. You guys have never had people fighting a war for your freedoms. We have Memorial Day. What's your holiday you have up there? What's the somber day where you remember Justin Trudeau wearing blackface? What's that holiday called? I don't know. I don't know. Get him, Base Invader. I see your comment. I can't I can't say it. But YouTube is slacking, Dave. It's okay. So let's find people to raid over on Rumble. Who could we raid? Let's see. Who's live? Oh God. Let's raid. It's got to be a live button here, right? How about Wendy Bell? Yeah. We'll raid over to Wendy Bell. I've actually interviewed Wendy Bell on my show before. Oh, look at this. Jesse, PRGY, $100. What an absolute legend. My goodness. Thank you so much, man. Really appreciate it. Yeah, we made it to 50%. How about that? And Crust Rumble while they are at it. Jesse, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate it. Unbelievable. Thank you, man. Tyler W, $5. Thank you. Says, you're the man. The extravaganza isn't the same without the fat man. And it is Remembrance Day. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. You guys are awesome. Base Invader, $5 over on Rumble. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. You guys are amazing. Oh, I hit the wrong button. I'm still trying to figure out the raid stuff over on Rumble. I'm sort of an idiot. But I think I got it. So we're going to raid Wendy Bell over there. And then on YouTube, who can we raid? What? Jesse coming in hot at the end. Thank you so much, man. Or lady, I guess. I assume, man. Let's raid our good friend Jim Bob. All right. You guys are the best. We're going to end the stream here tonight. Happy Memorial Day again. Thank you to each and every caller. Thank you to my editor, Black Elk. Thank you so, so much to everyone who watched, who chatted, who liked, who subscribed. I appreciate you all. Even if you disagree with me, thank you for sticking through it. I'm very much enjoy doing these shows. So we'll see you all soon. We're going to play the outro, and we'll probably see you over in the extravaganza. If not, 10 p.m. right here on every channel you're watching. Thanks so much. Oh, Lavin! Unbelievable. What a legend. Absolutely crushes it. Go. Thank you so much. Unreal. Thank you, guys. Lavin, always amazing. Not only one of the most generous donators, but also always fighting so I don't have to hear shitty whip songs. Always appreciate it, Lavin. Thank you so much. I'm going to go take my son out to do a little shopping now, and then I'll be back probably around 5:30 for the extravaganza. Thank you all so much. Special thanks to Lavin and Jesse there at the end. Just the two of them sent $300. Thank you. But thank you to everyone that donated. Please enjoy your Memorial Day. Have some burgers. Have some fun. But don't forget to remember what the day's all about and the people that fought and died so that we can enjoy a day like this. So, all right, we'll see you all at 10 p.m. tonight. As always, have a good one.